Hey everybody, my name is Jesse Collins, and I want to tell you all about my show, the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. On the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, we do a thorough analysis on the biggest issues and trends within the pro wrestling industry. We talk a lot about pro wrestling media, we talk a lot about fan culture and wrestling's place within general pop culture, and we talk about the broader influences that are shaping the way we discuss and analyze the pro wrestling industry. We've had some of the brightest minds in the pro wrestling intelligentsia on the show, including WrestleNomics host Brandon Thurston, both Rich Craich and Joe Lanza from the Flagship Wrestling Podcast, Trevor Dame from the Through the Years podcast, and a whole lot more. This isn't a show for hot takes. It's not a show recapping the latest episode of television. This is a show focusing on the biggest topics in pro wrestling and doing a deep dive on the real stories behind the surface level analysis you might find elsewhere. The Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, and we'd really appreciate it if you gave us a try. Thanks.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Thank you so much for supporting WWE and NXT and me. You're so sweet.
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
I'm not throwing in the towel. I'll do this till I die. The only ones that are going to get me are the ones that outlive me. Then they can come tap dance on my grave. That's fine.
Rich Craich.
Just because a camera stays steady for 3 minutes does not mean it's like art and cinema. Watch a movie, watch a TV show, watch something.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
How are you, Rich Craich?
Fine and dandy. Fine and dandy, as always.
Caught me in the middle of a yawn when you asked me that.
Get into it.
Yeah. Caught me in the middle of Fighting Spirit Unleashed.
That show stunk.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Golly. I watched a lot of bad wrestling this week. I watch a lot of bad wrestling every week, man. Fuck it. I supplemented all this shit wrestling we force ourselves to watch with the 35th anniversary of Terry Funk and Ric Flair, their I Quit match from Clash of the Champions. I'm so glad I did that, but I'm really upset I did that, because then I still had other wrestling to watch. Like, what I should have done is finished all the bad wrestling I had to watch this week and then watch that match and been like, oh, okay, cool. But the problem is like halfway through Fighting Spirit Unleashed, I believe literally halfway through that women's four-way, I was like, I got to watch Terry fucking Ric Flair. I need something to cleanse my body here. I need something here to get things back on track. So I watched that, but then I had to go back to Fighting Spirit Unleashed. And that was not a good idea. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah, it took me like 3 days to get through Fighting Spirit Unleashed. Not because the show was like 6 hours long, but because, and I don't even think the show was bad necessarily.
It was more not good than it was bad. It was more not good / boring than it was bad.
It's just dull. Just fucking dull. I don't want this to come across like, oh, poor me, I have to watch wrestling to make money, right? But I can say this. If this show didn't exist, right, if I didn't have this gig, New Japan Strong would be like the first thing I would stop watching. I cannot get into these shows.
I was going to pitch maybe taking a little bit of a New Japan Strong break for a while. Let them earn our business back and our time.
No, we gotta watch.
You gotta.
Gotta watch.
I ain't gotta do nothing.
They're relevant shows, and they demand to be kept up with.
My argument is they're less relevant than ever.
I don't know than ever.
I would debate the relevancy. I guess the COVID shows were more irrelevant, but
what about like the dopey taping era in LA? Like those weren't relevant at all. Like,
yeah, okay.
No disrespect to like Barrett Brown and Matt Vandergriff and and
the other stars of championship wrestling from Hollywood. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
But that was a pretty irrelevant era of the strong. But there's a major angle. I mean, we got the Takeshita Shingo thing, and Monet showed up. They're just dull. Rich, I can't take the West Coast Wrecking Crew anymore.
Well, after that match, I don't think anybody can.
I can't take it anymore. I don't know. These shows just they're very much a slog, and I don't even think there was a lot of bad wrestling. There was a lot of average wrestling. There was some good wrestling, but I think that it would be my first cut if I was strictly watching pro wrestling for pleasure. I think that this would be an easy first cut. Well, actually, I think any and all WWE would probably never get watched. That's probably fair to say.
I think you'd watch like Rumble and Mania. I think you'd check in on Rumble and Mania. Maybe maybe the SummerSlam. Maybe the SummerSlam.
I'd become a Rumble and Mania guy. I think I'd become a Rumble and Mania guy. But New Japan Strong, absolutely on the chopping block.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Well, I've already chopped TNA off, so I'm losing promotions by the minute here. I guess I'll stick with New Japan Strong for now, but I'm ready.
TNA, you always drift in and out.
Yeah, I'm good. I am just waiting. I have said I am waiting until somebody tells me, and there's people I trust, and I said when you think that I should lock in again, please let me know and I'll lock in again. Right now I'm just trying to prioritize what I'm watching and stuff. So, but when it comes time, and I trust your judgment, when it comes time on TNA, do let me know if there's a good show, a good match, a good pay-per-view, a good build, a good story, whatever. It doesn't take much for me to get back in. Just let me know when it's time to get back in. And Joe, that happened, about a year or so ago, and everybody I trust, I check in with them sometimes. And I go, hey, time? And they go, nah, not really. No, not yet. I'm like, okay, thank you. So I haven't engaged with TNA post Nemeth. I think I watched one or two of the, as they've rebranded to TNA or whatever. And then I forget when I jumped out, but it's been pretty much since midway through this year, I think. Not the whole year, but midway through this year, and no one has told me, oh, now you got to really jump in. Oh, you got to do this. No, it's been pretty much like, yeah, you're good. If there's a good match, I'll tell you, but otherwise, stories-wise and promotion health-wise and just overall, totality of the company, right. I'm glad. I'm glad more people are going to their shows and stuff. I just got no time for Joe Hendry and Nick Nemeth and any of that sort of stuff. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, Joe Hendry's an instant, if you're pushing Joe Hendry, that's a tough sell for me, but they're doing all right. Yeah. They're putting more people in the buildings, and, their fan base seems to really be enjoying it. I think the Hardys are, that's where the Hardys belong at this stage.
Absolutely. I think I feel comfortable with them living there for the rest of their careers.
It's a good spot for them. All shtick aside, I don't want to watch them anymore. So at least there's somewhere where I don't really, where like you, I'm not locked in. But that's a good place for them to be. I think it's mutually beneficial for both sides at this stage for them. And their pay-per-views and their tapings are doing better these days. So, good for TNA. I think, I've got one eye on it at least. You're just totally checked out. But I know you watched Flair Funk. I watched a lot of old wrestling this week too, and I watched the Stan Hansen and Terry Gordy versus Tenryu and Jumbo from '83. So this is before they really got cooking with Tenryu.
Yeah. Okay, so it was Hansen and Gordy, you said?
Yeah.
Hansen, Gordy, Tenryu, and Jumbo. Okay. From 8/26/83? 8/26/83, is that the one?
That's the exact match, yeah. So it's like peak Gordy, 83. And Hansen, right in his prime. Jumbo, obviously, But Tenryu was kind of like Tenryu took the pin because it's 83.
You're right. So, he's not there yet. He's not Tenryu yet, as we would come to know him.
Yeah. It's clear he's gonna be, but man, there's only like a maybe 15-minute match or something, but just the entrances alone, Gordy comes out, with his music blaring, he's throwing chairs into the ring, chasing fans off.
Children are running for their lives
around. Yeah, with his Confederate flag on his back, on his gear, and
different era, for
and then,
sure. Definitely a different era. Yep.
yeah, Hanson comes out, and it's just you just feel it, there's just the buzz, and I'm just thinking right off the bat, I'm not trying to beat up on modern wrestling at all, but right off
you know
the
what,
bat,
Joe? Modern wrestling deserves it. Modern wrestling needs a kick in the ass. Let's beat up on it.
It's not great right now. It's not great right now, but that's really not the point of my. It's like right off the bat, those two guys get their entrance, and you're like, nobody feels like either one of these guys like today. There's guys that have aura. I think Roman Reigns has incredible aura. His entrance, his presentation, but it's different. It's not like. It's hard to articulate and explain, but, and then Jumbo obviously with his 1970s game show music, and it's just,
yeah,
and there's one sequence in the match where Hanson's in there with Tenryu, and Tenryu's chopping him, right? And he's chopping him good, but he's not laying in. You know what I mean when I say that? And Hanson starts you could see what Hanson's doing. He starts hitting him back. Is his way of saying, lay in. And he really pushed Tenryu to really beat the shit out of him so that it came across more real. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You can sense
I think a lot of
Hanson
guys, a lot of guys at certain points in their careers, and I, I'm not sure what Tenryu's headspace was at that time, but certain guys, don't feel comfortable always with, maybe you're new to an opponent or you're not quite
veteran.
Yeah, and a veteran there, and you're not quite like, oh, I don't want to hurt this guy or whatever. And especially Tenryu, who had, obviously a real sports background, a real sumo background, and could probably beat the fuck out of anybody really at any point in his career. I think there was always, and we remember that with the Okada match, where sometimes there's an apprehension to laying it in or whatever, and sometimes you need that other wrestler to say, fucking give it to me, man, let's go. Like, it's cool. Hit me harder, chop me harder, make it count, make it sound like something. So yeah, that's I saw that GIF that you shared, or a video you shared on Discord.
I put it in the Discord. I put it into Discord. He made him fight. And then he sold for him. Not until Tenryu really fought and had to fight him then Hanson sold. He sold big. He took the whatever Tenryu calls that kick, the back brain kick from fucking Fighter Hayabusa on Nez Pro Wrestling. Yeah, he sold big for the kick, and then he sold for him, because once he established he was going to make him fight, and Tenryu took the pin, and it was just, man, I'm like, this is the best match I've seen all week. You know what I mean? Like, not even close. And it's not like some all-time classic or anything like that.
Oh God, all four guys would have catalogs full of better matches than that one. I know the match you're talking about, and it's good. I like it a lot. But yeah, if you think about those four guys, like, Jesus Christ, those guys are gonna have so many more great matches over the next.
So I just think about that. You said you watched Flair Funk, and I want to hear you talk about it in a second. And then I watched just something that's been sitting in my queue forever. I watched an LA Park match from before he was LA Park, when he was working as Principe Island against the original Zandokan. And I didn't know what the fuck I'd be getting into, and it was basically an LA Park match, but not as LA Park.
Okay.
Just brawling all over the building, and the camera couldn't follow him or anything. So I really didn't enjoy that quite as much, but it was funny. It's like, oh, okay. When this guy was 20, he was doing the same, it wasn't all that much different than what he's doing when I don't even know how old he is, 55 or whatever it is. And then I watched the Fort Worth 4th of July Freebirds Von Erichs match for the 6-man titles, which is a fairly famous match. And it just, that's in the heart of, that 4th of July, 1983. The Von Erichs versus the Freebirds, because that was before I sent in my Observer ballot, my Hall of Fame ballot and everything. So I was watching some stuff. My God, the heat. I mean, I don't have to tell. I don't have to tell anyone the heat. I mean, just the nonstop screeching from the young girls, and look, is it state of the art work? No, it's world class 1983 though. You know what you're going to get. It's they're beating the shit out of each other, and it's all about working that crowd up into a frenzy. And I think when the point I'm trying to make is when you start to feel a little bit of malaise about pro wrestling, I keep a playlist on Twitter, and it's just every time I see a match that looks mildly interesting, I add it, and then it's there for a rainy day, and I just slap play.
YouTube.
And
I believe you said you put it on Twitter. While X is indeed the everything app, I believe you're watching these on YouTube.
No, it is YouTube's. Yeah, I misspoke. But I'll just go to that playlist and slap play, and then it just, as you can see, it's a total, all Japan, world class, Lucha, and you just, and I think that's important too, to bounce from different styles to different styles, so everything feels more fresh that way too. There was even an old World of Sport match where it was very young Rob Brookside and Steve Regal versus the Road Warriors. Not those Road Warriors though, Rich.
Oh no.
Two grimy British veterans that were calling themselves the Road Warriors. And I gotta tell you, it was entertaining as fuck, and I finally got around to watching the AWA charity show, Wrestling for a Cure, from Massachusetts. If you ever wanted to hear Boston Celtics announcer Johnny Most call pro wrestling,
oh no, that sounds awful. Certain people are going to say that sounds great. That sounds awful to me. But how did it work out? How did he do?
Well, he was doing the ring announcing, and then he had Killer Kowalski on color with some
like a bag
local
of rocks. That guy sounds like a bag of rocks, man. But
like,
that's a real man. That's a real dude over there. So.
With some local Boston sports radio host he was working with. It was exactly what you think it'd be, the commentary. But this show was brutal. The matches, the wrestlers did not have their working shoes on. And it's funny because there was a Nick Bockwinkel, Rick Martel match, and they're interviewing Bach before the match, and he's like, yeah, we do have some time constraints tonight. So with the shorter time limit, I'm going to do this match a little differently than I normally would. It's almost like he was setting us up for a disappointing performance.
Yeah.
In his pre-match promo, which was funny.
Did he deliver on his disappointing performance?
It was pretty good, actually.
Okay,
I mean, it was the worst match was Billy Robinson versus who the hell did he work? I don't have it pulled up right now, but the fans gave him the old boring chant, which on a charity show in front of there was a Bob Backlund Larry Zbyszko match with a preposterous finish where Backlund gave him an atomic drop and Zbyszko went over the top for the DQ, just totally preposterous. It wasn't a great show or anything like that, but it was a fun and interesting watch. It had the Road Warriors versus the Long Riders, which is the Irwins. Not very long before Scott Irwin died, actually. Probably would have been less than a year before Scott Irwin died. But Scott Irwin's pre-match promo was incredible. He was like, yeah, with us, you see what you see is what you get. These are our real bodies. And you fans all know what the Road Warriors are doing to their bodies.
Oh, look at that.
And I was like, holy shit. He's like,
you're going to get an ass kicking. They're going to fuck you up, man.
Yeah. He's like, I might not have much muscle, but this is my real body. He kept going on and on about the steroids. And I'm like, man, I don't know if he ran this one by, Animal and Hawk before he cut this promo. But
does Mr. Laurinaitis know about you calling him out
exactly.
for steroid abuse?
But that's exactly, it was just a direct call out of that. I mean, it was crazy to hear him cut a promo like that. But maybe it was a rib, who knows? But yeah, I spent some time bouncing around watching some stuff, and then when you do that, and you watch something like Fighting Spirit Unleashed with, it's hard, man. The atmosphere, all of it, and again, I didn't even think the show was terrible. It's just, the atmosphere is a tough sell, and it's just dull. But you watched Flair and
yeah, I watched a few old things, but yeah, one of the things I really wanted to watch this week in particular, especially today, I kind of hit a wall with my malaise and just thinking, God, there's not a whole lot out here that I'm really liking right now. And yeah, I looked at the calendar and I have a little spreadsheet that is like, this day in wrestling history to help me out with some write-ups or ideas of stuff to do. And I looked and it was 35 years. Tomorrow, by the time most of you guys listen to this, November 15th, 1989 was Ric Flair versus Terry Funk. NWA Clash of the Champions #9 New York Knockout from Troy, New York. Clash of the Champions I Quit match. Now, this is the kind of the blow-off match of the entire Ric Flair Terry Funk feud. And my God, I know you've seen this match before, and I don't know how vividly you remember this match, but it's fucking phenomenal. It's like out of this world. It's like you said, it's something that you're never ever gonna see today, and I don't know that anybody can recreate this today. And I think that's in one breath, it's like, okay, yeah, that happens. Time moves on, things evolve, things change or whatever. But I'm also watching this being like, nobody can ever do this ever again. Like no crowd is going to ever act like this again. No wrestlers are going to ever act like this again. Like this is from 35 years ago, and it's definitively in the past, because it's just the way the guys are working, the style of work that the guys are doing, the types of chops they're giving each other, the type of offense they're giving each other, the way the guys are selling. Just Terry Funk being Terry Funk, Ric Flair being Ric Flair. Like nobody else is going to do this. Nobody else is trained the way that Terry Funk was trained. Nobody else is trained the way that Ric Flair is trained. Nobody's going to be able to kind of wrestle like that. There's because this match is just a fight the entire time. There's nothing cooperative. There's nothing where anybody helps anybody out. It's like Terry Funk is getting chopped by Ric Flair, and Ric Flair's got to like literally pick the guy up to get him to stand up to chop him. This is the match where Terry Funk just keeps falling out of the ring every time. Like he gets chopped, and then he falls out of the ring, and then Ric Flair's got to be like, oh, God damn it. So he takes him outside, and he chops him, and he chops him, and he chops him, and he chops him, and then he grabs his ass from the ground and picks him up and slides him into the ring, and then he gets back in, and he chops him, and he chops him, and he chops him. And like there's like 7 moves that happen in the entire match. It's like mostly chops for you know what I mean? Like almost all of it, it's like 30 minutes, and like almost all of it is chops. But then Terry Funk goes outside the ring again, falls over the guardrail. He's not necessarily running. He's just kind of getting assaulted by Ric Flair and
getting his ass beat.
Yeah, he's getting his ass kicked. Like it's not like nowadays that would happen and the heel would go outside and start, try to take a powder or try to get away. Terry Funk's not trying to necessarily get away. He's just getting his fucking ass kicked by Ric Flair. And that's pretty much the match, is Terry Funk getting his ass kicked by Ric Flair, making it look phenomenal. And eventually, Funk gets a little bit of offense here and there, but for the most part, Ric Flair just beats the hell out of him, puts him in the figure 4. And, the referee, asks, do you want to quit? Do you want to quit? And Terry Funk's like, no, I'll never quit. I'll never quit. And then he goes, my leg. And then he finally goes, fine. Yeah, I quit or whatever. Then it's over. And then what I love about it is the match starts with Terry Funk saying, Rick, you can get out of this beating right now. You just say I quit right now, and I won't kick your ass or whatever. And then Ric Flair beats his ass for 30 minutes or whatever, makes him quit. And then after the match, Ric Flair grabs the mic and says, "Shake my fucking hand," basically. You know what I mean? And Terry Funk goes, I made a promise. I'll shake your hand because you're a good. And it's not like they don't do the shake hand hug, like hold each other's hands up. It's a very it's a respect handshake. You know what I mean? Like that, those things don't happen anymore. Now every match ends with like the handshake and the hug and the raise this hand, this guy right here, no, this guy right here, that thing that we see everybody do. This is like a respect shake. You know what I mean? Ric Flair sticks his hand out and says, "You made a promise, shake my hand." And Terry Funk goes, "I made a promise, I'll shake his hand," and he does. And it's just a real quick. It's just like, all right, good. And just one little quick shake, and then Ric Flair pulls it away to go celebrate, and then Terry Funk gets turned on by his manager because he didn't get the job done. Because Gary Hart beats his ass afterwards because Terry Funk didn't beat Ric Flair, and that's what he was brought to do, is beat up Ric Flair, and he didn't do it, so he beats his ass. And then in the end, Terry Funk goes and helps Ric Flair as Ric Flair's getting his ass kicked by Gary Hart and his crew or whatever. But yeah, just watching the actual style of the match, and it's just like, it's stuff like this is just never going to happen again. And they're sweating buckets, and they're doing the I quit gimmick, and it's not overwrought. You know what I mean? It's not every 2 seconds the guy's asking if you want to quit. It's basically like they're getting their ass kicked. And Terry Funk will just be like, ask him. And then, Ric Flair just doesn't say anything. He doesn't say no or anything. He just doesn't say anything. I'm not ready to talk. Right. I'm going to fight. Get this mic out of me. I'm in a fight, and I'm still fighting. But, man, it's great. If you haven't watched it in a while, this is your cue to do it. It's on the Peacock as well. So if you are a subscriber to Peacock, Clash of the Champions 9, New York Knockout, Ric Flair, Terry Funk. It'll be 35 years on the 15th, November 15th. So Really, really recommend going and check it out. But make sure you don't make sure you don't watch it and then try to go watch normal wrestling or today's wrestling, because it's gonna hurt. It's gonna be tough.
Well, one thing that when you don't watch older footage for a while, that hits you immediately is the snap and the pop and everything that they do. You know, just the way that guys, even little things like the way that guys flat back bump, the way that they sometimes, even in the way that they just go for a cover, where they make the guy underneath kick out. You got to kick out, right? It's not this loose shit that we see like in NXT.
Oh, the NXT thing where now, which is an epidemic in NXT, the I roll off of the pin before you even kick out thing, which
before
happens.
The person kicks out,
which people chalk up as like, oh, it's inexpensive, but like everybody there does it, so it's like
I think they're taught.
They're taught it, yeah. Like that, like they do like the victory roll thing, and then it's always 1-2, and then the woman rolls backwards before the person kicks out, and it's like, fuck, you see that all the time on NXT to the point where it has to be taught. It has to be. It
has to be taught. Because they all do it. There's no modern wrestling that looks worse when you're watching older wrestling than NXT. I mean, it just really exemplifies how much NXT is the shits. It's the shits. It's really truly awful. I know we have fun with the NXT reviews and all of that, and people think it's like a meme. I truly think it's beyond awful, drizzling shits, worst Major League Pro Wrestling that's ever been on television. It is horrendous. And it's not just the presentation that turns me off and the way that, you know, it's the style and the presentation, which is awful too. The work is, Rich, it's awful. I mean, I don't know why they're teaching people this way. It's really bad. But yeah, when you watch the older footage, it's what hits you immediately is how much better the strikes are, how everything feels like it just has a pop and a snap to it that you rarely get today. There's not as much attention to the finer details of the work today as there was back then. Yeah, the wrestlers are without question better athletes now, and they can do more impressive things. And there's a lot of things, obviously, I love about modern wrestling when it's done well. But it's the little things that have been lost over time, which we have to find a way to get back, because they're not dangerous things. They're not things that are going to put wrestlers in danger or make it harder for them to stay healthy. They're just small things like we just detailed, like going for a cover and really making the person underneath kick out of that cover, to just add a little bit of realism to it, to make it feel like you're watching an organic struggle. And that's where a lot of modern wrestling misses the mark, because there's no emphasis put on it. It's very clear that no one's emphasizing that stuff, and no one is. And that's why when I talked about Robbie Eagles a couple weeks ago, he really stands out to me, because he's someone who, you know, if you plopped him on a show in, you know, 1983, his work wouldn't stick out like a sore thumb like one of the geeks from NXT would. I mean, could you imagine one of these people from NXT working with 1983 Stan Hansen? Right? You know,
Right,
he wouldn't.
Right. Imagine the women's side. Imagine Nikita Lyons going to All Japan Women. You know what I mean? It's unfathomable.
You know, it's just a completely different world. You know, but and there are guys today that are I mean, they're excellent. I mean, yeah, of course. But I just think there's some details that we're getting further and further away from, and it's a shame that the biggest company in the world is training their next generation to work like shit, to work loose and light. And look, I'm not saying they should be dropping each other on their heads and doing all kinds of dangerous shit. Although, you know, I would argue that the NXT style is dangerous in different ways that older wrestling wasn't dangerous. I mean, in a lot of ways, NXT is what people say AEW is. with nothing but flippy doos and what people call indie style. NXT is much more that than AEW is, but AEW has the reputation of being that. But if you watch NXT, it's just one flashy high spot after another. They're just taking turns doing
by a
flashy
largely
high spots
untrained
to each
person.
other.
By a largely untrained person. It's like it's what
by
people
poorly
thought
trained
indie
people who aren't good at it.
Right. It's what people thought indie wrestling was for a while. Those people that were only what people thought indie wrestling was in like the mid 2000s or whatever. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, oh, it's some flippy do guy out there in track pants just doing a bunch of bullshit. Some backyarder out there doing a bunch of flips or whatever, and pretty much what NXT is, except instead of a backyarder, it's like an ex-college athlete. It's Sol Ruca going out there and doing a gymnastics routine and big high spot after big high spot after big high spot or whatever, without any sort of
doing flashy high spots to each other and doing them poorly because they're green, and it's soulless. It's just soulless. And I don't know how we got on an NXT rant because I wasn't, but it's just, it's everything that a lot of people claim AEW is, and unfortunately, this is why I've been trying to warn people for like 2 years. I mean, if this is what they're teaching, this is what the main roster is eventually going to be. When the people who can work on the main roster age out or whatever, who are they going to be replaced by? The people in NXT. Who have been taught to work this way.
Well, that's I guess one hope, and that's one hope that I had with the ID system, and we'll get to the ID thing a little bit later. I mean, there's obviously going to be many missteps along the way, but I think a lot of what the WWE ID thing is realizing that maybe that's not the best path forward, and maybe these people aren't being taught the right way, and they need to be taught a different way. Now, I have no faith that WWE is going to tell these ID wrestlers and these schools, train guys however you want, and then just let us know when they're ready. They're going to obviously have a huge influence in how they work. And even then, when they do come to WWE, whether it's they report to the PC or they report to NXT or they report to the main roster, whatever, that you're largely going to get, I'm guessing, oh, that person doesn't know how to work, we got to rebuild them. You know what I mean? If in the truest sense, like if the ID thing worked and you basically let the Black and Brave Academy train wrestler X the entire time and then say, okay, yeah, he's ready to go. He's ready for you. Then they bring that guy in. I know, I have no doubt in my mind, whether it's the old regime or the new regime of WWE, that guy will work one or two times and then they'll go, oh no, he's got to do this. He's got to do that. He's got to do that. I mean, they have a way. It's obvious that they still have a way, but I think at least somewhat of the acknowledgement of the WWE ID program is to me, hopefully, that they realize that the PC way of developing wrestlers is not good and they need a different way. But ultimately, I don't think that they think it's that big of a problem. I think that they just think there's not enough people coming out of the performance center, not necessarily the work itself is bad. I think they're perfectly fine with the work that's coming out of it.
I think they're perfectly fine with it too. I think they're going to deprogram anybody that eventually ends up there.
Yeah, in a perfect world, they wouldn't, but we know that they are. That's just how they're going to do things.
That's exact. Yeah, that until I'm proven otherwise, I feel like I understand what you're saying, where maybe the ID thing is an admission that, but here's the thing. They have all of the power to change how they're training people. So if they weren't happy with the way things were going in NXT, Shawn Michaels would either be replaced and they put someone in there who is going to, push a style that they want learned there. You see what I'm saying? They wouldn't create a whole new program. They would just change what they're doing. They have all the power to do that. So that's why, to me, once they bring these people in, I feel like they're just going to deprogram them. And, it's more important to them to make them look like what they see as what television stars look like and cut the goofy promos and do the little skits that they do. And that seems to be more important to them. And then the matches seem to be, there's no basics. You watch an NXT show, especially the pay-per-views. Again, I'm not trying to sound like a broken record, but it's all just people taking turns doing poorly performed spots, which is why we had, and the thing is, the people that like NXT and a lot of the NXT fans, they don't even realize that what they're watching is bad. You'll have people say that goofy women's match was the same thing as Will Ospreay versus Ricochet, which was utterly preposterous. And anybody who knows what they're talking about knows that was utterly preposterous. But those fans really believe that, because what have they been exposed to? You know what I mean? So to them, it is the same. So you have their fan base eats this up and thinks that there's good wrestling going on in NXT, when NXT is some of the worst wrestling I've seen on TV, maybe ever. It's just awful. It's irredeemably bad. It's hard to watch sometimes. Did you see that Nikita Lyons spot that got gifted this week? What is that? That ripcord throw thing?
Ripcord, and then I kind of throw you, sort of.
Then she does some pose like she did something.
Yeah, she's cooking.
Like
she's cooking. Yeah, she's cooking, Joe.
And that's the shit that they're teaching down there. Just the pose has probably got a lot of praise in the back. Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, you want to, not the dog shit spot that looked awful that no one could even figure out what she was trying to do. In between blowing out your ACL every 10 minutes, which every woman down there does, because they've got them doing all this crazy shit that they're not good enough to do yet. So I don't know. I don't have any faith that the ID program, and we may as well just do that conversation now, since we're already having it. You've been on top of it and keeping up with it. It's like, I'm already annoyed by it, because like always with WWE, they have to turn it into something annoying. And I cannot stand all of this. Oh, someone has been ID'd at fucking Beyond Wrestling. Find out this weekend. And it's like, everything has to be some wacky marketing slogan and done in this over-the-top performative way. And now what they're doing too is, I don't know if you saw the one with Marcus Mathers and I forget who the guy was that got his deal from.
Oh, yeah. Who was that? I forget who. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I forget who the other guy was, but yeah.
Right. So now what they're doing with this is they're shooting little fucking scripted out skits where they have Regal go into the locker room with all these guys, and he hands the contract to Mathers, and he hands the contract to the other guy.
I think it was Holloway. I think it was that Sam Holloway guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and Mathers, oh, thank you, Mr. Regal. Oh, thank you. Oh, my God. Thank you, Mr. Regal, for this pre-engagement ring, right? And
promise ring, the promise ring,
yeah,
the WWE promise ring.
They're promise rings. That's what they are. That's what we're dubbing them from this point forward. WWE promise rings. And watch that catch on. Everything we do catches on.
It always will. It always does. Yeah.
So then he hands the other guy the promise ring, right? And the other guy, though, is acting like a heel, right? He's like not as thankful. He's like, well, I knew this was coming. I deserve this. So now they're even turning this into like stupid shit. And I don't know if you saw the guy tonight at Beyond Wrestling.
Yes. I was about to bring up Aaron Rourke, where they announced it in the middle of the ring, and then he is just...
Oh my God.
Pounding
Can we
the
tone it
mat,
down?
hands on the eyes. Oh my God. And everybody's going, yeah. It's so...
Can we tone it down?
Yeah.
I mean, geez. He's pounding the mat. He's like, he's in tears. Like, dude, it's not even a real contract. Like, I'm not trying to rain on people's parades, okay? But now we're turning these things into like performative skits, like, and it's just so off-put. Everything that company does is just so fucking off-putting. It's just like, yuck. It's all just gross. Nothing could be just organic and normal. Besides the fact that, again, I mean, we don't even know what these little promise ring contracts are worth. What are they? Everyone's playing nice now. We saw how that went in Europe. And anyone who thinks we're not going down the same road is naive. And they need to prove that we're not going down. It happened
in America too. It happened, it's happened multiple times in this last decade. So it's.
Yeah. So, so I don't know. I'm just very put off by the whole ID thing. I find it very off-putting, very annoying. They have signed some people who I think do have a lot of potential, but here's the problem. At this point, once people sign with that company, I'm not interested in them anymore. I'm not interested in Marcus Mathers anymore. That like sucks all my interest out of that guy. I don't want to see ID wrestlers on indie shows. That makes me less interested in your indie show if you have the WWID people on them.
Yeah, I'm less interested in your journey. I'm less interested in your journey because one of the things that's cool about indie wrestling is following a wrestler's journey. And over the last couple months, I'm starting to try to watch a lot more indies because I am really bored by a lot of major American wrestling right now. So I'm trying to see what's out there, and I think it's in a better place than you do. I know you're very, very down on it. I do think it's in a better place than you do, but I do think that, and I think WWE recognizes that too. Don't. This is another big reason why that ID program is happening. I think that they realized there's a little bit something happening here. There's some good wrestlers here. There's some companies that are starting to make some waves. Let's get in. Let's make sure that doesn't even grow anywhere beyond what it was, because they're still completely shook by the fact that AEW got created, and Paul Levesque, more than anybody, was tasked with don't let AEW get created. And we talked about that at the time. We talked about it before AEW really came to be, that one of the biggest failings of Paul Levesque's tenure was, you were not supposed to let this happen. Like, how did this happen under your watch? Like, I put you in charge of killing the indies, which is essentially what, early NXT, or NXT was. I mean, at post, once they started signing your Steens and your Genericos and, those sort of guys in that level, it was like the idea was stomp out the indies. And that's what the Cruiserweight Classic was and all that sort of stuff. And that's what the NXT, to what the NXT UK tournament was of, hey, stomp out anything going on in the UK. That's what NXT was. Like, made no question about it. It was, why would you watch indie wrestling? We have indie wrestling here. Just watch our indie wrestling. And it worked. It worked, shockingly well, but it didn't work enough to, AEW got created out of it. And I think that, ultimately, then losing head to head to them was the nail in the coffin for Paul Levesque at that time, being in charge of whatever he was in charge of. I mean, they straight up, I don't know what the term you would say, but I mean, he got demoted. He wasn't fired, but he was as demoted as you could possibly be. So I think that there's always going to be a groundswell of, okay, we have to make sure that nothing bubbles up underneath us. Like, that cannot happen. AEW happened, and that sucks, and we don't like it, and they took some of our market share, but we're never going to let that happen again. And I think that's also probably a part of why you're seeing the ID thing, because I do think there is some good stuff going on in the indies, and they are rebuilding in a way that is definitely better than they were 2, 3, 4 years ago. But now this ID thing is probably going to stunt that growth for sure, because a lot of these guys now are, the journey for these guys has now ended, essentially. And a lot of people are out there saying, oh, well, the idea is that AEW can still sign them to a contract, and WWE, can match it or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay.
Can I make a point about that?
Yeah.
If I were Tony Khan, I would put the word out and make it patently clear. I might even tweet it. I might even make it
Blue Sky it. What do we call posts on Blue Sky? What are we calling skies? Send it to the skies.
If I were Tony Khan, I would make it patently clear that if you are a WWE ID signee, you will not work for AEW, and you are now persona non grata, and I will not attempt to sign you at any point.
All right, lose that leverage. You lose all that leverage.
Because then the leverage is gone. Then you have a choice to make, okay? And your choice is sign the promise ring contract for whatever pittance they're paying you, right? But give up your leverage. Bet on yourself. Go ahead. Okay? Go fight those odds. But and good luck with that. But now you've removed yourself from consideration to working in my company, because you're not going to use. I would not allow. Yeah,
don't use me as leverage. You're not fucking
Correct.
using me for contract leverage.
I would not allow them to use me for leverage, and that would also make people think twice. Okay, I'll have one foot in the door with WWE, but I would make it clear that you're completely closing the door with me, because that's a choice you're making. I would treat the ID contracts identical as a real contract, as a true engagement ring and not a promise ring, to keep the analogy going. If I were Tony Khan, I would have the word out. And I suspect that that's exactly how they're playing it, because there is no other way to play it, right? Why should Tony Khan have to, why should he get, like you're saying, in some sort of leverage war for these people? Just wash your hands of them. They're gone. I would no longer, I would make it clear, even though I have a right to negotiate with you by the terms of these deals, I will not negotiate with you if you're making that choice. That's what I would do. because that's a competitive move in a competitive environment. This WWE ID program is a competitive move to get your claws into young talent before the competition does. Well, Khan should be making counter moves, and the counter move is you're off the table now. And I would make it clear to anyone that signs that they are now completely off the table for AEW consideration, not just for bookings, because this preposterous idea that they can still be used as television extras and whatnot. I mean, that's ridiculous. But in terms of overall interest, they'd be, I'd let them know you're out of our database. That's it. That's fine. You can, you want to sign this thing, but you won't work for me now. So that's how I would handle it. Because you have to make a counter move here and make these indie talents reconsider and say, now, wait a minute, do I want to close off my leverage, or do I want to be in a position where I can work both companies against each other when the time comes? Right? That's the decision I would want to force these people to make.
Yeah.
Right? You can sign so you can sign the ID contract, or you can keep your leverage. The choice is yours. But if you sign that promise ring deal, I'm not allowing you to have leverage anymore. So, it's up to you.
Yeah,
that's how I would.
It becomes a huge risk for sure. And, one of the things that I mentioned this in the Flagship Plus I did last weekend as well. We're not going to go over the names that have signed thus far. I already did that on Flagship Plus. If you want, I give you a little bit of background about the wrestlers that I did know. But one of the things I did find interesting, and I'm curious on your thoughts on this. I don't know if you listened to that Flagship Plus episode, but one of the things that when this thing got announced, I said was one of the very good things about this for the wrestling schools that were all announced, your Black and your Braves, your those different companies that got the Nightmare Factory, all those ones that got named, was WWE saying, look, if you sign to or want to and get into these wrestling schools, you are now in our system. You are now on in the pipeline to come to WWE. You are now on the fast track to make it to WWE, right? And that makes a lot of sense. For those schools, it's like, yeah, sure, that's great. Why would we not sign up for that? There's a inherent risk in that, because I'm sure, it's WWE, so something is going to, it only benefits them. In the end, it is only going to benefit them. But and my overall point was, if they told these schools and pitched these schools, hey, you're going to become like, our developmental territories, the schools would obviously sign up for that. Why? It's a great marketing tool to say, hey, you can go train with, school X and Y, or you can come to us and we have a direct line to WWE with this ID program. Like, that makes all the sense in the world. That people would rather sign up for you. I mean, if you're at the negotiating table, or you're trying to pitch, your school versus another school, we're the through line. We're the pipeline. We're the fast track to WWE. If you want to go to WWE, if that's your dream, this is the place you want to train at. It's a great idea. It makes all the sense in the world. The problem, though, is thus far they have signed up, what is it, about 10 or 12 people to this ID program. As far as I can tell, not a single person of any of those that have been announced or signed are from those schools. So you're already telling people you don't have to go to these schools to get an ID contract. Just wrestle normally. Just go anywhere and you'll get an ID contract. So any leverage that these schools had, and any benefit these schools once had to say, oh, if you want to go to WWE, you got to come through us, is kind of gone, because they're just signing Jack Cartwheel and Zeta Steel,
right,
and Marcus Mathers, and they're just signing people that are just wrestling.
We all knew about.
They're just signing people that are already on the indies. So it's
they're
like
signing the best people on the indies who have the best reputations,
right? So I found that very perplexing, because I was thinking, oh, okay, well, now they're announcing these developmental. These places, these are essentially going to be developmental territories, and they're going to either take most of the talents from these places or filter talents through there. And they might do that in the years and months to come or whatever. But for right now, they're just signing indie people. And it's like, these schools, I don't know. Is it like, if you're one of these schools, are you really saying, hey, look, we're going to get you into WWE? It's like, they didn't sign any of you guys. They didn't sign any of the people that came out of your schools. And I know that there's good wrestlers out of those schools. There's good wrestlers. When I did the initial piece talking about all these schools, there's a lot of very good wrestlers that have come out of all of those schools that should have been, I assumed were going to be signed up the first minute they started announcing these contracts. And thus far, none of them have been announced. And it's all just like random people on the indies. So it's almost not different than what they were doing before. They're just signing good indie talent, but now they're signing them to these nebulous promise ring contracts as opposed to real developmental contracts. So it's strange. I don't know. I found the rollout very, very weird.
It's not what it was. It's already not quite what it was sold as, from that standpoint. But yeah, it's just bad business for Tony to sign anyone that's on an ID deal. It's just bad business for him because it's just going to encourage more people to sign the deals, because people are going to say, "Oh, I could get these two sides in a bidding war if I sign the ID deal." So Tony needs to not sign any of them. He needs to make it clear, I'm not offering anyone a contract who's on the ID deal. And then less people sign them because they don't want to be stuck with whatever low stipend it pays and no leverage at all. Because now when WWE decides, we like the work you're doing, Jack Cartwheel, we want to bring you in. If there's no, now if Jack Cartwheel has
Jack
one
Summit,
of these ID deals,
sir, Jack Summit,
sure. If he has one of these deals, Jack Summit, right, and Tony Khan's off the table, they're going to sign him for $40,000. He's not going to have any leverage.
Yeah.
Why is Tony going to hand people leverage? You know, don't let these people play you. Let them make that choice. You know, so and I'm sure that's the way he's going to handle this. I would be stunned.
Oh, he has to.
He has to. If he signs anyone that's under an ID deal, that's crazy. You know, then everyone, then if I were an indie wrestler, I'd absolutely.
Oh, of course. I'll take whatever X amount of stipend I can, get myself more publicity, and then
now my foot's in the door. I get a little skit with William Regal, and I potentially find myself in a bidding war down the line. Versus if the word is out that's it, you're out. We're not going to consider you. Now you really have to make a career choice and think about it. Do I want this, or do I want to make a name for myself and then have an organic bidding war take place for my services? Right? So in a lot of ways, this is WWE just cheaping out on talent.
Correct. Ding, ding, ding. Yes. My next point is this is a masterful gambit by them, because they're going to get a bunch of people signed for $30,000 or $40,000. They're going to start telling more people like Baron Corbin to hit the fucking bricks. And they've just reacquired a lot of mid to low level talent for pennies, for fucking peanuts.
Yeah. And the whole turning things into skits with Mr. Regal and all of this.
Mr. Regal. That fucking dude. Oh my God.
That's to sell these people on, oh, look at all the publicity you're going to get when we sign you to one of these. It's all a massive sell job.
Well, I mean, my God, have you seen some of these other wrestling news sites as well? When these people get signed, it's like, wait, tell me all about Shawn Legacy. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, any of you know who the fuck Shawn Legacy? Oh my God, Ice Williams has been ID'd. Oh, he deserves it.
Yeah.
You don't know anything. You've never once watched an Ice Williams match. Shut the fuck up.
You have so many of these sites and these people who cover wrestling putting over everyone who gets signed when I've never seen them cover these people.
Right.
But look, WWE knows
what an opportunity for Ice Williams. It's like,
all right,
okay, you're locked in, on Ice Williams. Okay, all right.
So and so is such a great signing. What do you know? You don't know. You don't
you
cover.
Don't know any. Yeah, you don't watch.
We see what you cover, and you don't cover it. But that's all part of it.
We barely
WWE
cover it.
That.
We barely cover that area anymore. Like the indies, we barely cover it, and look at the shit that we'll cover. Look at the stuff that we do.
Keep listening.
Right.
Keep listening.
See how low we stoop on a weekly basis, and even we don't know who some of these people are.
Yeah. So it's but that's all part of it, and why they market it the way they do, and why I'm so grossed out and put off by it, because it's just taking advantage of people who have the WWE dream and signing them to these promise rings and paying them this pittance and taking away all their leverage. So when they decide that Marcus Mathers or the guy that was doing the heel routine is worthy of actually being signed, now these people have taken away all of their own leverage by signing these deals. In exchange for what? You got to go back and tell your friends you shot a little skit with Mr. Regal.
Mr.
I
Regal.
didn't we have this conversation 5 years ago?
Yes.
With NXT? Didn't
yes.
we just do this? Didn't we just do this, Rich?
We just did.
History repeats, and then they act like they're doing everybody. WWE acts like they're doing the world a favor and Triple H puts out his little tweet talking about how deep the talent pool is on the indies. I guess he's given up watching Dragongate, and he's a big indie fan now.
Nice. Him and I are locked in. I'm watching Wrestling Open right now. I'm sure he is too. I'm sure he's on his IWTV just like I am right now, watching his Wrestling Open.
Yeah, down the $11.99 a month for IWTV, and or whatever it costs, and he's absolutely locked in the Wrestling Open on a weekly basis. No doubt about it. I know that's how Paul's spending his time. And they put out there talk about how talented everybody is and everything else. And, they've had Gabe Sapolsky out there looking at these people for the last 2 years or whatever, and Triple H don't know what the hell's going on. So, it's all a marketing ploy to get their claws into these people. And look, they know that Tony's going to do exactly what I said Tony should do, and they're going to take advantage of that and take all the leverage away from these kids. That's precisely what they're doing, under the guise of rah, we love indie wrestling, which is their whole. I think it's funny how
also greatly reducing the amount of money they have to pay for talent moving forward.
Right, exactly. Yeah, getting everyone for with no leverage negotiations. Yeah,
because every new guy that has a contract you can replace, and you can do the thing that we talked about. They're not going to do it with the Miz, the Grayson Waller thing. How many for 7 years we said, Jesus Christ, just let the Miz go and sign, before he was Grayson Waller or whatever, Matty Wahlberg. Just you could be the replacement level Miz. Like just go be the Oakland Athletics of wrestling. You can do this, and I'm sure they're going to. TKO is that's the kind of company they are. That's what they did with UFC. It's stars and scrubs, stars and scrubs, and that's what it's going to be now. So when you're Baron Corbin going into a contract negotiation, they're probably not even going to have a negotiation. They didn't have a negotiation. They just told Baron, you know what? Thank you for your time. Have a great one. How many millions did you make? Great. We now have that we don't have to pay you anymore, and we'll just replace you with insert, random person.
Josh Briggs or whoever.
Right.
And what's funny to me is these hardcore WWE fans, all of a sudden they're all big indie fans.
Oh,
and
they're
all fired up.
They're all locked in. Yeah, locked in on.
And 10 minutes before this program rolled out, it was all hot dog handshake,
bingo halls.
Bingo hall. Yeah. Now they're all about it. Now they're all about signing their favorite indie stars.
Yeah,
now
they love the Beyond Wrestling. They're all big into Beyond, and all this.
All locked in to all their favorite indie, all the stars that they're signing up, they're big fans of. So yeah, that's the ID program. The more I sit on it and think about it, the more I dislike it. But it's just, you just shake your head. It's history repeating. And as someone who's already been down on the indie wrestling scene, I'm even more down on it now. I don't have any care to watch these people now. And we'll see what changes come. Eventually they won't be allowed to do jobs, and eventually they're going to start restricting the places they can work. We all know that stuff's coming. Of course.
Come on. They've done it every single time. They told Samoa Joe he could take indie bookings, and then he took 2, and then they said, okay, that's enough of you. That's enough of that.
We've had enough of that.
Pete Dunne, you can keep running your wrestling company, and then 4 months later, we're closing the wrestling company. Oh yeah, you guys can keep taking indie bookings. Actually, we're going to cancel you. And then just remember the guys kept getting canceled like the day before a show, and then everybody just stopped booking them. Like they didn't. What they did is they didn't tell the UK guys they couldn't take bookings anymore. They just would bring them in and say, "Oh, we need you for this." A day before a show would happen, and they just kept getting canceled to the point where promoters just stopped booking those guys. So they got what they wanted without explicitly saying you can't book these guys. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Because then the poor indie promoters holding the bag, having to explain why Pete Dunne's not coming this weekend.
Right.
And once you've all bought your tickets to see Pete Dunne, and I'm sure that's what's going to happen here.
Anyway, so yeah, that's the ID program. So I'll keep. I'm staying up on it at least as much as I possibly can. But yeah, it's going to start getting even more annoying, and even the Regal stuff really tested my patience for sure. Because of course that glory hog would find a way to get in the middle of it and be the center of attention. And thank you, Mr. Regal. Marcus Mathers in his suit, like indie wrestlers. I love how he went backstage and all the wrestlers were wearing suits. Come on, man.
That's just- yeah.
Have you ever been in any?
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
seen many of indie locker rooms. I haven't seen the promoters probably barely wearing a suit. At most, the ring announcer is wearing a suit. If you're lucky, and most of those guys don't wear suits anymore.
Only if it's Rich Palladino. That's
yeah,
the
right.
only one.
Rich Palladino's going to be in a nice looking suit, and a couple other guys. Yeah, I've seen a couple here and there, but even that's a dying breed because now even your ring announcer is like guy because everybody's like the Jim, like dollar store Jim Smallman now. So everybody comes out in like t-shirts and a backwards hat and screams and stuff. Like, so you get a lot of that now. But like, I love they go backstage and all, you know, there's like 7 people in this locker room. I forget what locker room it was, and they're all wearing suits. And I'm like, oh my God, Marcus Mathers bought that suit today. Like, you know what I mean? Because they told him, hey, Regal's coming. You better, you know, what do you have on? And he's like, oh fuck, I don't know anything to get something. Yeah, those guys showing up with suits. That's what I mean. Like already the lack of organic, the lack of anything that's not just so polished and produced, and it's just they can't do it. You know what I mean? They just can't.
No, everything has to be well, I mean that again, but we know why. You know, they want to make it out like it's all marketing. And they're marketing to the wrestlers is who they're marketing that aspect of it. Yeah.
And it's brilliant because it's gonna fucking work as it always does, but then eventually it won't
work in the UK.
Yeah.
I mean,
they killed their scene.
You know,
everybody but Rev Pro kissed the ring. Everybody but Rev Pro, and look who's still alive and thriving.
And most of the wrestlers. I mean, there were some wrestlers that saw through it, and then what did they do? They got chastised by Pete Dunne. Not the way.
Yep.
You know, Pete Dunne told them it was not the way. Yeah. Well, and you know, it was real easy for Pete Dunne to say.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
because I'm locked
in.
And I'm the best. I'm awesome. I'm really, really good, and I'm locked in.
Right.
So this is good. Well, yeah, it's good for you.
I'm the best guy in the country, and and I'm locked to make it. It's real easy for him to, you know what I mean? Like, but you know, so that was always, I'm the first guy they signed, and I'm the top prospect. Yes, it's not the way for you,
right?
You know, but you know, and so some of them held out, and some of them spoke out about it. You know, they were like, hey, I don't know about this. This is kind of, I don't know if I want the $18,000, and I can't. I'm gonna end up. I did the math. I'm gonna make less money, and there's no guarantee I'm gonna make. Not the way. Okay.
Well, it's why, like, you know, and they've kind of lost it. I mean, sometimes this has worked and sometimes it hasn't, but you kind of always want, especially in, like, you know, in American sports, if you have a players association or a players union, you don't always want, you know, the president of your players union to be the best player in the league. And usually that doesn't happen. Like the NBA is very good about that. The NBA, like the current one is like CJ McCollum or something like that, which is perfect because if it's LeBron's going to do whatever it's going to work for LeBron and not give a fuck about everybody else. But like they always do a good job of that. Like Derek Fisher did it for a while, and I know I want to say at some point in the mid 90s, I think it was Buck Williams. Like in the peak of like the Jordan days, it was Buck Williams was like the head of the NBA. Because if it was Michael Jordan, he would have just said, yeah, that's cool. You know, so I get $45 million. That's cool. I don't care about anybody else. You need a guy that's working for the little man or whatever. So yeah, having Pete Dunne be the representative when I'm very clearly the best wrestler, and you know I'm already locked in. Him saying, oh no, this is going to work out great for me, and well, yeah, it'll probably work out all right for you. Maybe it doesn't. Okay, that's fine. Like you need someone that's a little bit more in the middle to negotiate because you can't have the highest level negotiating. That's how it works.
Always my complaint. That's always my complaint about the baseball union because it's always like Max Scherzer front and center.
Yeah, it should. Yeah, the NBA has it right.
Max Scherzer doesn't give a fuck about the minimum salary player. No. He wants to get every fucking nickel he can get.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's always been my complaint about when baseball and the Players Association have their grievances. It's always those guys front. It's the complete opposite of what you're talking about with the NBA. And they're always going to be looking out for themselves and make as much as they can with their limited time before their bodies break down. So yeah, kind of similar concepts here. But yeah, we once again will see history repeat. No doubt about it.
Here's a name that I know you like. I'm looking at the past presidents because I knew some of them. So Buck Williams, I know you know Buck Williams. Junior Bridgman,
of course.
Junior Bridgman was the pres for about 5 or 6 different years out there too. So good for that's a blast in the past for you. Did you ever see? Because was Bridgman probably a little bit before your peak of going to Nets games, right?
Oh yeah. That's way too early for me.
Yeah,
Buck Williams is too early for me. That's. I mean, when I was able to go to Nets games like on my own, like hopping in the car, hey, let's go to watch the Nets play the fucking Bullets tonight because why not? see what Michael Adams is getting into, it would be like Chris Morris and Derek Coleman.
Okay, yeah, DC, that era, yeah.
Yeah.
So like 90, like
Drazen
90,
Petrovic,
92, 93, 94, 95,
mid
that range,
90s,
yeah.
early to mid 90s. Yeah, would be, yeah. So those guys you're talking about, like Buck Williams was like the 80s. That's a little too early for me.
I think you'd be surprised. Buck lasted a little bit longer than you'd think. He wasn't in net. He wasn't in net anymore. No. He was. Yeah, he was. I don't even remember. He sat on someone's bench for like 5 years, like one
Portland.
of those. Yeah, I think it was a Portland, and maybe he went to the Knicks or something like that. He was one of those guys that it was just like, Buck Williams is on that team, but he never played. You know what I mean? It was just like, he's a coach on the bench or something like that. Was the Buck Williams thing for a number of years. But anyway, that's more Buck Williams.
Tree
talk.
Rollins. Remember how long Tree Rollins hung around?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I love Tree Rollins. I've told you a story about how I massively cockblocked Tree Rollins, right?
You cockblocked Tree Rollins.
I did. Yes.
He had to be in his 40s at that point.
He was pretty old. Oh, yeah. He was pretty old at this point. So there was like a celebrity golf thing that used to happen around my house. I met Johnny Bench there, too. So what would happen is, and my mom pounced on this pretty early, is if I would go to that event, all the adult
Tree Rollins tried to fuck your mom and you cockblocked him?
No.
That's unbelievable.
I would have let that. I would have said, Mom,
dog
go for
that
it.
Tree Rollins is. An absolute dog.
I would have said, go for it, man. That's Tree Rollins. That's an NBA legend. It's not a legend, but to me, I like Tree Rollins. That's fine. Go for it. Yeah. I would have encouraged my mom to do that. No, it was not my mom. But what would happen is at this thing is all the adult autograph seekers would be there, but these guys didn't want to sign for these guys because they fucking knew these dudes too. You know what I mean? Like I think players probably at certain points know who these guys are. Because like if you go to Chicago, you're like, oh god, that fucking guy. Oh, this fucking guy. Because what would happen is the adult autograph seekers would walk up to Johnny Bench and say, "Hey, Johnny, could you sign?" And Johnny was no. So what started happening is I started going to this, and they would start, the adult autograph seekers would start using children. And what would happen is before like the players would get there, they would go, hey, if you get Johnny Bench to sign this card, I'll give you this thing. And he'd give me some innocuous thing, you know what I mean? Like a card or a baseball or something like that or whatever. And it was a good thing. Like I got good stuff out of it, but it wasn't like, a John Elway autographed rookie card. That they wanted that, and they were going to give me like, a Troy Aikman card, from like 1994. And I'm like, that works. That's great for me. I didn't know what I was getting in exchange for nothing. I don't care. It didn't bother me. So I was employed with like following these guys. And one time without knowing, and I guess my mom wasn't there, this one guy was like, I need Johnny Bench to sign my bat. It was like a Big Red Machine bat. You know what I mean? He got everybody to sign for the Big Red Machine or whatever. So one of these like cretins walks up to me and he goes, Johnny's got to sign my bat before he leaves or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, follow him into the bathroom. He can't say no if he's in the bathroom. And I'm an idiot. So I'm just like, all right, sounds good. So he gives me the bat. And I walk into this bathroom and I go, hey, Johnny, can you sign this bat? He's like, yeah, sure, kid. He was nice about it. I don't know. I think he must have, and he must have realized at a certain point, like, if I put this up to him, this kid doesn't know any better. So fine. I'm not gonna yell at the kid. For doing this. This kid doesn't know any better. Obviously, it wasn't my bad. I'm not going to walk into a bathroom and tell Johnny Bench, hey, can you sign when Dave Concepcion's got an autograph on there? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care. It's very clear. Me, an 11-year-old, is not like a dyed-in-the-wool Big Red Machine fan that really wants Johnny Bench's autograph. So that was what I was tasked with. But later in the night, or later in the day, I should say, we go to the restaurant. There's like a restaurant in the golf club or whatever, and we were just going to eat dinner there or whatever. And Tree Rollins is at the bar spitting some game. There's some fine woman at this bar, a little bit younger than Tree at that point, a little bit younger by about 30, 40 years. But hey, do your thing.
Hey, no problem.
Yeah, do your thing, man. Do your thing. And
Perks of celebrity.
Exactly. Yeah, you could be 52-year-old Tree Rollins or whatever, and you could still spit game at a 24-year-old. Yeah, right. You're Tree Rollins. Right. He's 7'1". He played in the NBA. He's Tree Rollins. So, I sit down, and Tree's out there, doing his thing, playing the game. And I'm like, it's fucking Tree Rollins over there, telling my mom. Like, I knew that at that point because I was a complete dork for NBA history. Like, I didn't really care about, other sports history, but NBA history, I was. And I was so much of a dork that I knew it was Tree Rollins. And I was like, gosh, I'm going to go talk to Tree Rollins about, like, the 87 Atlanta Hawks or whatever.
Right.
So I walk up, and I'm like, hi, Tree Rollins? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, big fan. And he's like, okay.
You want to ask him about the John Concac contract? And,
I'm like, man, what was it like playing with Neek? And he's like, yeah, man, it was great. all right, see you later. And I'm just sitting here and talking. And I'm just talking about all the Atlanta Hawks and all this sort of stuff. And you could tell the woman is just kind of spinning her drink and looking left and looking right or whatever. Like, I don't know if he was going to nail it anyway, but he had a much better chance before I showed up and was just like, all right, yeah. So, so eventually after like 7 minutes, I'm kind of done with Tree Rollins. He's done with me, I guess I should say. And he just kind of goes, all right, kid, you have a good one. And he's nice about it. Kind of smacks me on the shoulder, like, get the fuck out of here, man. And he goes away. And he turns around, the woman looks at her watch and goes, I better get going. And I could just see him go, man.
Deflated.
I was like, and I didn't know it at the time, but then like later, like a couple years later, I look back and I'm like,
then it
fuck.
occurred to you.
Once I got to that age, I was like, man, I really just like, a Tree was I don't know if he was going to nail it, but
nail it.
I certainly didn't help him at all. So, poor Tree Rollins.
Double meaning for nail it.
Yeah, I guess so. Land it. I guess I should have said land it. Seal the deal. Yeah.
Stick the landing.
Yeah.
No, Rich says nail it.
Well, that's what he was looking to do. I don't think he was looking to,
That's very strong 40-year-old virgin. I've porked many women energy when you say
right. I'm gonna nail her. Oh my god.
Yeah, I think he says that line, and that's one of his lines in the movie. I really want to nail her.
So
porked many women.
This is great. So I have wrestling.
Of sand.
Oh, go on. Here, carry on.
No, I'm done. I'm done with my lines. Go ahead.
So I'm watching this Wrestling Open show, which I don't always watch, but I decided to check in on Wrestling Open today. And there was a guy that I just saw wrestle, and I went, Joe, this guy's got some good talent here. Let's watch this guy. His name Brad Baylor. Good look. I looked. He's trained by Paul Roma. The tag team he's in is called Swipe Right. And I'm like, yeah. I'm going to tell Joe about these guys. I was going to maybe break into the show and say, hey, Joe, check out this Brad Baylor guy. Good size, good look. So I watch his match. I'm doing the Tree Rollins thing, and I look over, and he's holding a piece of paper. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? I look over. He's got an ID contract, motherfucker. He's just announcing that he just got an ID contract. I was like, oh, fucker. Damn it.
Yeah.
This is it. This is the new normal. I see this guy, and I'm like, good little prospect. Good little prospect here. I'm going to talk about him on the show and seem like I'm, know my shit. And then, he's already fucking signed. So,
well, early retirement.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he has retired young.
Yeah. Fuck. Well.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Such is life. So, just like Tree Rollins, you win some, you lose some. So, got to get back at it. Tree, he should. You miss every. You get right back. Take that next shot.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Yeah. Next girl up at the bar.
Yeah. Right. I'd go to a different bar. I'd maybe leave the the Bolingbrook Golf Club and maybe try somewhere else. But
yeah,
I'm sure Tree did okay for himself. But there's my Tree Rollins story. If I would cockblock Tree Rollins. So. I'd like to meet him again and tell him that story too, but I don't know. I don't know that I'm ever going to cross paths with Tree Rollins ever again. All right. Let's talk about AEW here real quick. So you did the Thursday Dynamite review, obviously, as you always do, flagshippatreon.com every single week. And I wanted to talk about a few things from not necessarily what you talked about on the Thursday Dynamite review, but a little bit about the current state of AEW and certain things that has kind of caught my eye and my attention. I wrote about this a little bit earlier as well on flagshippatreon.com. So a double plug here. You got the Thursday Dynamite review covering every single week in AEW. Well, I wrote an article, $10 tier, on the Patreon about AEW's mysterious schedule, and I'm curious what you think about this because you and I haven't talked about this yet. I don't believe. So in that piece, I detailed that AEW, after December 12th, has nothing booked in terms of TV shows or TV tapings. They have pay-per-views booked. They have World's End and All in Texas and Grand Slam Australia and Forbidden Door next year in 2025. But after December 12th, they have no TVs booked. Nothing is booked after that. So the rest of December, we have no idea, and nothing in 2025 booked in terms of TV shows or tapings. Do you find that peculiar or odd, or do you think that's just, do you just kind of shrug when you hear that? And I'm not saying, by the way, Don't do an AEW's dying thing. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not doing. I'm talking about bigger picture, not hacky. Is AEW dying? What's going on? Are they dead? I'm not doing that hacky bullshit. I'm mostly saying, what do you think they're doing? Why do you think they have nothing booked beyond December 12th?
Obviously, it's odd. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. I mean, that's less than a month away. Today's the 14th.
Yeah.
So. I don't know if they have another residency cooking. I don't know if they are retreating their strategy of the basketball-sized buildings and finally figuring out a way to run smaller buildings that will come across hotter on television. I know that they switched venues in Cleveland a few minutes before we got on the air. So, they got out of a large building and they got into some small expo hall, it looks like.
Yeah, they're going to be piggybacking on the
convention.
Galaxy Con, I believe, in Columbus. I believe it was Columbus that they were going to run the Nationwide Arena. I think it's where the Blue Jackets play. I think that's the name of the arena. I don't know if I have the sponsorship right or whatever, but that's where they were going to go, and they since canceled that, and now they're just going to piggyback off the Galaxy Con.
Yeah, so, they're going to spin that as some kind of, partnership with the con or whatever, but I think it sure seems to me like I'm sure the advance was as tiny as all the other advances have been lately. So the show's just come across.
It was about
so
1,000 out. Yeah, there was about 1,000 tickets out.
Yeah, it's becoming untenable. It's hurting the television product.
Oh yeah, and I knew it would. I said this years ago. I said this at least a year and a half ago. Basically, that if you're running these big buildings, you better fill these big buildings. At least, not necessarily you have to have 20,000 in the building every single TV taping, but you got to have
5,000, 6,000.
You got to have 5, 6, 7, 8,000. You got it, because if you're going to book this 15 to 16 to 17,000 seat arena, you can't have 5,000 people in there. You can't have 2,000, and that was when they were putting 5,000 in there. And then I was saying you can have 4,000. And now they're getting 2,000. And it's like, you can't have a 1/10 filled arena. It's going to be a dire atmosphere. People say, no, they need it. It makes them look professional. It makes them, the lighting grids and this, and it makes them look professional because they're in a big building. It doesn't make them look professional. Things look hollow. The arena's black. The arena's dark. And trust me, being a fan in one of those buildings sucks. You show up and you go, fuck, there's 2,000 of us in a 20,000 seat arena. What I'm watching is cold as ice. You know what I mean? That's the objective you would have. Where if you put 2,000 people in a 2,000 seat building, or you're all in there, that seems like the biggest thing in the world. You how many shows did you watch in the ECW arena that it didn't matter that there was, how many people were they packing in there? The fire marshal doesn't have to know, but how many people would you say?
1,700, something like that. Packed in like sardines. Right,
but if you were booking, the Spectrum or whatever and putting 1,700 people in there, it'd be dire.
Right.
That you could take the same crowd from the ECW arena and put them in the Spectrum or whatever. Was the Spectrum still? Was that around at that point, or did they already knocked it down? I have no idea.
I was still there. Yeah.
Okay,
it's still there. Not even still there today.
Is it, or is it the new whatever the thing is called? Is it really still standing?
They don't run sports in it, but it's still there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, so you could take the exact same crowd, the exact same ECW crowd, and move them to the Spectrum. And you're telling me you're going to get anywhere near the same atmosphere, the feel, the crowd's going to feel the same, they're going to react the same, the wrestlers are going to feel the same, and they're going to react the same, that you watching at home are going to feel, oh my God, I'm watching something incredibly special here. No. That's bullshit. Anybody that said that was just lying to themselves, and they've now seen the last couple of weeks that, last couple of months, I should say, this is what it looks like. It's fucking dire. I mean, the wrestlers, I'm sure they feel it and sense it. The crowd feels it and senses it. It just looks horrible on TV. It's the sound is hollow. You can hear the sound echoing, and the camera shots, like you always point out, are fucking. They can only shoot one little corner of the arena because that's the only corner of the arena that anyone's really sitting in. And it's just it's not a good look at all.
Yeah, but before the chat falls all over themselves to correct it, it was torn down in 2011, the Spectrum.
Okay, thank you. I'm surprised it lasted that long, to be honest.
Yeah. I remember seeing the physical building, when I was in Philly a decade ago or whatever. So, but it appears they've tore it down in 2011. So that was long after they built whatever that building's called.
It's
now.
changed 17 fucking times. Wells Fargo Center, maybe. I don't know. Is that what it's still called? I don't know if it's still called that, but
I don't know. We all know what you're talking about, but yeah.
So it's just but yeah, it's odd. It's very odd, and something else I and I'm not trying to put a conspiracy hat on or anything like that, but as I mentioned in the piece, Kosha Irby, who was obviously hired to kind of streamline their live event business, and he comes from long history of doing live event business stuff in many different places, pro bull riders. Whatever the PBR, the Bull Riders League, WWE. He was obviously there for many years as well. He used to do these little post show photos every single time that from when he was hired. He would post a show. Hey, thanks to Springfield for coming out for AEW Dynamite. Hey, thanks to Tacoma for coming out for Wrestle Dream. That sort of stuff. He would just do like one little shot. It was the whole arena, and he would take that shot, and it was over. He hasn't tweeted or sent a photo since last month, since Wrestle Dream in Tacoma. Now, I looked, and it seems like he's still there. Like, it doesn't, and anybody can stop tweeting for a multitude of different reasons. I'm not saying that, he's not tweeting anymore, so it must mean he's fired or this or that or whatever. I just found it odd. You know what I mean? It was just one of these things. There's enough weird stuff going on. It's like, okay, he's no longer as active, publicizing the buildings. They don't have anything booked in the next, in 30 days, nothing is booked in terms of TVs and tapings. I don't know. It just all seems strange. And I know I saw some people theorizing that, maybe it's, they're waiting for the Continental Classic to announce all the different buildings and buy your tickets now and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. It just seems like you'd kind of want to get that stuff figured out before, 20 days out, 15 days out. Which is, I guess
it's odd. It's suspicious.
Yeah, it's just
There's
weird.
no doubt about it.
That's all. I don't have any big picture thoughts. I don't have any this is clearly what's happening. I don't have any big time conspiracies. I just found it weird. I was just like, they don't have anything. And this was pointed out. We Griffin and I maintain a schedule page, an AEW schedule page at voicesofwrestling.com, and we're doing a pretty good job of it, and it's starting to get some good web traffic as well. That announces all their events and announces all their matches or whatever. Because I don't think that they particularly do a very good job of doing that. And, Griffin pointed this out to me a month ago. Hey, they have nothing booked past mid-December. And I was like, that's weird. But, that's 2 months away. And then it was like, a couple weeks ago, and he's like, they still don't have anything booked. I'm like, that's weird. And now, like this week, I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah, they don't have anything booked. And we're less than 30 days now until some of those shows have to get, ready to go. And it just seems like a very, not a very good plan. If I was booking a company, I don't know that I would rely on people to buy tickets, 20 days out. And booking venues 20 days out doesn't seem like a very good idea either. But I don't know. It's odd. So we'll see if that gets announced or changed or anything like that in the next couple of days, because the Continental Classic is also coming up as well. We think. So they announced that it's going to happen. It's going to kick off November 26th in Chicago, the annual pre-Thanksgiving, the 27th, November 27th, the annual day before Thanksgiving Dynamite in Chicago. So I will be there. So I'm excited. It was last year the Continental Classic kicked off there as well. Presumably Kazuchika Okada will be in it. They had that little pre-tape a couple weeks ago where Okada was like, I want to be the best wrestler in the world. And Continental Classic, okay? And that's all we know. So we know that Okada...
They flat out said he would. Yeah, they flat out said he's in it.
Okay. I would hope he's the Continental Champion, so he should probably be in there. But that's all we know so far. We know it's going to start in 2 weeks, but we don't know anything else about it.
Yeah, they haven't announced anything else. I would assume they're going to give us the blocks next week. But I don't know. Next week's the go home for the pay-per-view, right?
Yes.
So they got a lot going on. Maybe they'll announce the blocks at the pay-per-view. But
they did that little YouTube special last year. Do you remember last year they had that like random YouTube special? But that was like Tuesday. That was like the day before.
Oh, you're right. They're probably going to hold. Yeah, I mean, they might just want full attention on Full Gear, and then do it like that. And last year, which annoyed some people, they didn't announce the matchups ahead of time. We didn't know the matchups until the week before each matchup was set to take place. So it kind of took some of the juice out of it from the nerdy standpoint of, let's do a pick 'em, or let's try to figure out where the booking is going, because based on when people wrestle who, like, it kind of took away that aspect of it. And a big thing when you do these league style tournaments is people getting into it from that standpoint.
Yeah, of course.
Trying to work out the matchups and everything. So I kind of think that was something that they might want to try to correct. But on the other hand, maybe they don't want people working it all out. Right. So I don't know. But I'm more apt to think that they just didn't know the order of the matches when they announced it.
Right.
And because those things aren't easy to plot out. You really got to sit down and figure it out and put it together like a puzzle. And we see what happens in Japan all the time when someone gets hurt and they have to rebook the whole fucking thing. And it's very intricate, and each result affects other results and everything. So, it's not an easy thing to do. Now, would I have sat down a month ago and figured out who was in it and when and who they're going to wrestle and worked it all out? And maybe they did do that. I don't know. And maybe it's just Tony Khan's philosophy that you're better suited to announce the matches right before they're going to happen rather than all ahead of time. I don't know. So maybe they're more organized than I suspect that they are when it comes to that. But yeah, we'll see. You're right. They did announce it like the day, like
wasn't it? It may have been the day of. It may have been the fucking day of. I'm looking at the video, and the video says November 22nd, AEW Continental Classic bracket reveal show, November 22nd. And I want to say last year, what was Thanksgiving on last year? Thanksgiving 2023. It was, oh Jesus. What day was? Okay, there we go. Yeah, so it was the day of that Dynamite. They announced it earlier in the day.
God. Okay.
So the day of, you woke up, Dynamite was that night, and you didn't know anything that was going to happen.
You know who was in the tournament?
No.
Yeah. Did they announce who was in it, but just not the blocks? Am I giving them too much credit?
I don't remember. I don't remember if you knew who was in it either. I don't think we did. But
I'm still annoyed they did a 3-way to determine one of the blocks.
Oh, you're right. That. Yeah, you're right. Otherwise, that tournament
year
fucking
one
rocks. Yeah.
Year one, right out of the gate, we got a fucking sports entertainment it up with a 3-way. But yeah, we'll see. I was very enjoyable last year. It was one of my favorite things they did last year, and people responded. It popped the quarter hours every week because we were tracking it.
Yeah, put their money where their fucking mouth was.
Yeah, and people were interested in it, and it did work as a concept. So, I'm looking forward to it. At arm's length. I'm looking forward to it with arm's length. But the whole no seconds at ringside and no outside interference and all that. If that continues to be the concept, and you put your best wrestlers in it, it's going to be good. The problem is a lot of their guys are tied up in feuds, and I don't know, do you put Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher in it? Do you put them in the same block so they have a match in the meat of the tournament? They're having a block match at the pay-per-view, obviously. So there's all those things to consider too. But it'd be nice if they'd announce a little. So Tony just likes announcing things late. I don't know.
I don't know if it's a winning strategy. I'm looking at the business as of late. I might not do that.
It doesn't help sell tickets. It doesn't help sell tickets. That it can't. You're 2 weeks out from a Dynamite and you don't know what's on the show. And the thing about it is, when it's a company where the stars aren't always there, right? That's the other thing. Like if Dynamite had all the stars on the show every week, it might not be that big a deal that they struggle to announce things ahead of time.
Right. WWE doesn't announce stuff either, and they've very rarely ever in my history, they'll announce maybe a match or two at most. But in all of history that I've watched, WWE for really hardcore watch WWE, for 2-3 decades or whatever, most Raws you go into not knowing, but goddamn well that you're going to see, unless they're injured, you're going to see every single star, whether it's a dark match after the show. But presumably,
I was just going to say, what they've done historically is announce the dark match locally.
Yes, yeah. So even if you're not really sure, the dark match is going to be this guy versus this guy, and you go, oh, okay, cool, great.
Right. Yeah. So, and you also, when your business is good, there's less pressure to work the margins to sell tickets. They're not selling any tickets. So it's like
their strategy's not working. So try a different one.
It's
maybe.
not. Yeah, you might. But anyway, that's beating a horse that's dead and rotted away.
Yeah, that poor horse. Yeah.
So yeah, the Continental. We'll see. I saw that some news broke on Mike Bailey today. PW Insider announced or reported that his contract was up November 1st, and then Fightful announced that it appears to be AEW bound. I could add to that, and I don't know what else is out there, but I was told that Mike Bailey was telling indie promoters that he doesn't have a visa beyond January. So he's not taking any indie bookings beyond January. Now, if he is in fact signing with AEW, they'll take care of that and they'll get him a visa. So in order to keep working in the US, he's essentially going to have to sign with AEW or WWE.
Right.
Because his visa is apparently up. I forget the exact verbiage. I was told January, sometime around January, either the end of January or in January at some point. So, but yeah, if Fightful sources are on top of that, then that will become a moot point because AEW will get that all taken care of. Get it taken care of before Inauguration Day.
I was going to say, maybe button it up before.
We saw what happened last time.
If you're a wrestler out there and you don't have a visa situation figured out, you might want to get that going as quick as possible. Might want to get that. Might want to get that tidied up as quick as possible. Yeah, it could be a little tough to do that, but hey, the luchadors will be okay. They'll find their way in. They always do. And speaking of that,
they got their visas. Those guys
are those guys all good?
Now.
They're all locked in. They're good. Okay.
You just saw Hechicero.
Well, that doesn't mean anything. That's.
What are you implying?
I'm not implying specifically in Hechicero's case. I'm implying that in certain times in history, some of these men have wrestled without visas. But
listen, I was at a Lucha show where a van with no license plates pulled up, the back doors popped open, a bunch of guys with masks piled out, and then the van pulled away. And it sounds like I'm making that up, but that absolutely happens. So yes.
And those guys all probably rocked. Those guys all probably ruled. They threw,
Of course they did.
They were fucking awesome. And then they left the show. The van came and picked them up. And
the van came back, screeching in, picked them up.
Wipe your hands of it.
That's, so, but I'm saying all those Lucha guys that disappeared for a while are back, so they obviously got their shit all straight and they're good, at least for now. But yeah, we knew that we the shit was moving pretty slow there for a while.
Yeah.
And we may be returning to that. This is not a horny show. This is not a political show, but it obviously a story that pertains to wrestling.
For sure. Yeah. Might want to get that buttoned up if you can. But that seems like a good transition. We're talking about a van pulling up and luchadors coming out. Well, let's talk about MLW's Lucha Apocalypto. Now I was there live at the Cicero Stadium. I reviewed it extensively behind the paywall. Also have MLW TV taping spoilers as well. If you want Slaughterhouse spoilers, you can go to Flagship Plus from this weekend and listen to that because I was live in the building, so I got all the Slaughterhouse spoilers you could ever want. And I was able to watch Lucha Apocalypto live. But Joe, you, for some reason, I guess you didn't listen to my review, decided to watch the show on your own. So how do you want to do this? Because I've already kind of given my thoughts about most of the matches. Do you want me to leave?
I gotta tell you, I'm disappointed in you.
How so?
Because I don't know. It's like you're chastising me for watching MLW. We're locked into MLW.
This is an MLW podcast, yeah.
Just because you were there at the show like some hotshot, covering it with your hat with the little press thing in the hat and your little pencil and your notebook. Why am I like some kind of monster for tuning into Lucha Apocalypto?
I don't think I called you a monster. Hold on a minute.
Not live because it, of course, didn't air live because of some technical issues. But
right.
But the next day, checking
live to
out,
tape, live to tape, yeah.
We've been locked into the MLW, so I don't understand why you're giving me a hard time about having watched the show. I will say, I don't know, maybe it was because I watched it from the comfort of my home. I didn't think it was nearly as bad as you made it out to be. I didn't think the show was awful. I mean, you basically, you were calling me that night. You told me your exact words were that was the worst pro wrestling show I've ever been to in my life.
This is not true. This is not true.
I hate MLW and I am going to give Court Bauer a piece of my mind. That's what Rich Crates told me the night of the show.
Tell that PR guy he can shove it. He can shove his free tickets up his ass. Yeah.
But I didn't think the show was I thought it was an MLW show. I don't know.
I think you have to bake in the 2 hours plus of watching Slaughterhouse before this show, and I think that might change things a little bit. But
I'm looking forward to Slaughterhouse.
All right,
heard it was a great time. It was a great time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it was a time. It was a time for sure. But yeah. So
I don't know.
Do you want me to lead you through the show and you can give your pithy thoughts?
I mean, yeah, you were there live, and I watched it on TV. You had Filthy Tom Lawlor on commentary, filling in for the guy that sounds like Christian Cage, who wasn't there apparently. So I don't know what happened to that guy. But and then Tom Lawlor, didn't he wrestle at some point on this show?
Sort of briefly. So he was not getting around well. So I don't know if he hurt himself in the Fighting Spirit Unleashed match or he came into that match hurt, but he was not moving around well. And that's sort of he did somewhat physical stuff in MLW, but didn't actually wrestle. And that's, I think, a big reason why they had him commentate as well.
Now you were there with your reporter cap.
Yeah.
Why didn't it air live? What happened there?
So as the Lucha Apocalypto starts, I'm getting word, people are texting me saying, hey, this thing's not on YouTube, it's not showing up, it's not popping up on YouTube. And I look and it's not going. So I texted a few contacts that I knew there and I said, hey, your show's not on YouTube. And I got a response that said, okay, we're looking into it. And I was like, oh God, it's already 10 minutes into the show. Like, I hope you guys were already looking into it. And that, so I didn't know if the response was, oh, we know we're working on it, or, oh crap, okay, we'll look into it. You know what I mean? Like, from text messages, you're not quite sure the tone or whatever. I then got word back that something was up with YouTube. Like, they couldn't get a connection going with YouTube. Something was going around there. They said it wasn't really the building. It was something with YouTube. That's all. I tried to kind of prod a little bit more, but they said something's going on with YouTube. We can't get it. So we're just going to say that we'll air it tomorrow. We're going to still produce it the same way. We're going to go live to tape, but we can't stream it on YouTube. So it's going to be streamed the next day instead. So that's, I don't know. I don't know if it was the building or whatever, but yeah, it we're just told something with YouTube is what prevented it, which sucks because there was a lot of people locked in. I looked on YouTube and there was I think when I checked, there were about 700 or 800 people waiting for the show to start. And then you could see those numbers just as every minute passed, another 15, another 20, number 30. And then by the time 7:30 came, it was down to 350 people that are still locked in waiting. Maybe they're going to air it. Maybe it'll happen. And then MLW announced, okay, it's not going to happen. We'll air it tomorrow. So I don't know, something with YouTube, they said.
Yeah. So you were given some interview time with a couple of talents after the show. And this was a weird deal. This wasn't a media scrum. This wasn't a press conference. So the way you described it to me is for the assembled media that were there, basically it was Rich Craich, The Athletic, and the New York Times.
Correct.
That were covering this event.
Yes.
From
Post. So Post, not Times, Post. New York Post.
New York Post. Okay, right. New York Post, The Athletic, and Rich Craich of Voices of Wrestling Flagship podcast were there. But with the assembled media, what they did is they just randomly assigned a couple of talents to each of the media who wanted to participate in some post-show interviews. So on the Flagship Plus, you do have a brief interview, recorded interviews with Riddle and Matthew Justice.
Correct. Yep. So the way they did it, a little bit different. So what essentially they got a couple wrestlers and we all took turns. Like instead of having them sit at like a podium or whatever, we got to an area and they basically said, all right, so here's our media guys and here's the two wrestlers. You guys all take turns. And so it was like me, I got the first stab at both guys because I wasn't doing video. I was just doing audio. So I was able to kind of walk over and I did my Riddle interview while Justice kind of, maybe did one of the other interviews or just chilled out for a little bit. And then, once I was done with the Riddle interview, he moved on to this guy and this guy and this guy. Then he was done and then Justice came and then I interviewed Justice. Then he went to the other. So
okay. So it was the same two talents available to everyone.
Correct. Yeah.
Got it. I was under the impression you got assigned those two guys.
No.
Someone else
Everybody
had
got
Janai
those
Kai
guys.
and whatever. So, okay. So anyway, that's behind the paywall on a Flagship Plus. If you want to hear Rich interview some of the MLW talent after the show. And Rich, of course, did not ask any goofy kayfabe questions. No. From what I understand, The Athletic and the New York Times were, in fact, asking goofy kayfabe questions. New York Post. They were, in fact, asking goofy kayfabe questions. Not Rich Craich.
No,
okay?
I got down to business. It was funny because they got taken aback initially because I was like, all right, so you get one of the questions I asked both guys right out of the gates because I wanted them to know I'm not that kind of, reporter or whatever.
Right.
I was like, all right, so when you're putting together a match with like one of these veterans, backstage,
yeah.
like how do you do that? You could tell they were both taken aback and they're like, oh, okay, but then they're fine. You know what I mean? Like everybody thinks that wrestlers are going to say, no, that's my business, man. But no, you just say that and then they go, okay, you're this guy. And then they go, yeah, putting a match together with Kojima is tough because, it's that's so I immediately started with those questions instead of like, hey, how was the show tonight? Hey, how was the atmosphere? Oh, you got a big win tonight. How was that? Right out of the gates, I'm like, all right, you're putting a match together with Okamura and Kojima. How does that go? Asking Matthew Justice, like, so do you start the conversation or do they start the conversation? So I tried to do it that way to make it obvious right out of the gates, what kind of questions they were going to have. And I thought both were pretty good. I thought both guys gave me some pretty good answers.
Yeah, they were. So look, we don't do a lot of these things for a variety of reasons, but when we do get a chance to do media calls or a chance to do these types of events, because we're so hypercritical of everybody else who does them. In fact, I mean, we obviously are the ones who lead the charge on that stuff, and we're to blame if you're tired of hearing those kinds of conversations, for sure, because we're the ones that have been pushing that stuff for years. We do, in fact, you put your money where your mouth is. You didn't go in there and ask goofy kayfabe questions. So I just wanted, set people up for that. If they want to go listen, it's real questions. So, we're not just being hypercritical of everyone else and then not doing practice what we preach ourselves when we do have the opportunity to take part in that stuff. But anyway, Rich was there. I was not. I did watch it the next day. I don't know if we need necessarily to go match by match. I would say that and you gave a full review on that Flagship Plus as well. But I thought that the chain match with Brett Ryan Gosselin and Alex Kane, it came across on tape as a complete dud that nobody cared about. I don't know how it was in the building.
Yes.
But okay, so
negative care. Like not even nobody cared, like negative care to the point where people are like, this is annoying. Like, get out of our ring right now. This is stupid. Yeah, that did not work. Because again, this audience is not an MLW audience. And I try to preface that in the Flagship Plus as well. They advertised this show to Hispanic people in Chicago. That's all the advertising. LuchaTix.com, I believe they own the domain. So if you go to LuchaTix.com, I think that's the one that they own. Let me make sure that's the one. Or it's like Lucha Tickets or something like that. They promote it almost 100% to that fan base. And that's why you have a Lucha show. And that's why you do the MLW tapings before the Lucha show, because if you did the Lucha show and then did MLW tapings, it would be me, the Swink, and like 5 other people.
The Athletic and the New York Post.
The Athletic, the New York Post. Jared Welsh, who I met finally after many years of him listening to the show, finally met Jared in the lobby there. It'd be like us, and that's it. Everybody else would leave. Actually, Jared would probably leave too. It'd be me and the Swink and the New York Post and the Athletic. It would be about all the other people that are going to be left for the MLW show. So I would say you're looking at 90%, maybe even higher, maybe even 95% of the people there are there for Lucha. They are of one demographic, pretty much. You know what I mean? They're there for the Lucha show. So yeah, they're not locked into, MLW One Shot and Fusion. So they know nothing about Brett Ryan Gosselin and Alex Kane. So yeah, when that bell rings and they're doing a 5-minute chain match, it's like, what the fuck? We don't care. Get these people out of here.
I think that they would have been better. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I just think they would have been better served to have that on the what was the name of the
Slaughterhouse
show? They should have had that match on Slaughterhouse.
Absolutely.
Why'd they have that on the?
It's weird, and that's what I was gonna say. They would be better served to make them what they did, because in May this is what they did. In May they did the same thing where they did the TV taping and then they did the Lucha show. The TV taping was your MLW portion of the show, and nobody gave a shit and nobody really cared, and that's fine. Because then after the 2 hours, they said, "All right, now here's your Lucha show." So they had Cesar Duran come out there and tell everybody to chant Lucha, and then for the next 2 hours, you got a Lucha show. This time. And this is why you maybe saw some of these matches where people really actively seemed like they were against these matches, was you sat through a 2-hour MLW TV taping, and then you got Cesar Duran. So you're thinking, oh, here we go. We're going to get our Lucha match, our Lucha show. And then you get Hechicero and Guerrero and Esfinge and Kevin Knight out of the gates, and they have a pretty fun little Lucha match. And you're thinking, all right, here we go. Here's our Lucha show. And now you're getting a chain match between Brett Ryan Gosselin and Alex Kane. And now you're getting a Donovan Dijak Heat segment. And now you're getting, Bad Dude Tito. And they don't care about this stuff. You're getting Matt Riddle and Satoshi Kojima versus Contra Unit. Like, they didn't want this. They said, we sat through your 2 hours of MLW to get the Lucha show. Give us our Lucha show. Don't give us this MLW stuff anymore. We did that. Yeah, the contract was, we'll sit through your MLW TV taping. Now it's time for our Lucha show. And they didn't do that. They mixed in a lot of MLW in the Lucha show, and I think that was a huge mistake.
It was, because it came across, especially in the chain match, which had no heat. I mean, none. Because as you said, none of those fans knew who these people were, and they certainly weren't privy to the feud they were having at minimum. So yeah, that just didn't work. Now the Lucha matches I thought all worked. That the opener, Hechicero and Ultimo Guerrero versus Finge and Kevin Knight, good little match. Everybody got their shit in. People were raising the roof, and Hechicero with all of his charisma and everything else. And I thought that, the three-way at the end where Mystico, who maybe he's never will lose this title, with Averno and Teton, maybe a little long, but it's the main event. So, people paid to see Mystico. So I'm not going to complain that he was out there for 25 minutes. Felino was over like crazy again.
Always.
At least, yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, he's a legend, They're there to see, Atlantis, Atlantis Jr. and Star Jr. I thought Star Jr. looked great.
He was phenomenal.
Yeah. So, Cavanario, Felino, and Magnus on the losing side of that. And what was the other Lucha match was Janai Kai against Juvia and Persephone. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, Juvia and Persephone were working together early in the match. And the commentary was really putting over strong. Like when they had her in that double submission.
Yeah.
Lawler was like, if she gives up, who gets the title? And Dombrowski's like, I don't know. So that was funny. But yeah, I mean, it was fine for what it was. But yeah, it's just the lack of heat really that hurt everything else. And I guess it what was obvious in the building also very much came across on TV. I'm annoyed that you didn't ask Matthew Justice a tongue-in-cheek question of, is it in his contract that he has to have a plunder match every time he wrestles?
I thought that might not endear. That should be my last question. As I say, all right, I gotta go. Yeah, see you later. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one because the bell rang, and so I was with the MLW PR guy, and we're talking, and I go, I'm telling you exactly how this match is going to go because he's like, hey, what do you think this match? How do you think this one's going to go? And I said, I know exactly how it's going to go. Bell rang. 0.4 seconds later, they're in the crowd. You know what I mean? It's just like instantly Matt Justice is in the crowd playing the hits. But you know what? Hey, do your thing, man.
It's
I also pitched him,
interesting,
and I pitched him. I told this PR guy, I said, go back and tell Matthew Justice one of these days. Here's what you got to do. I should just pitch this directly to Matthew Justice. Is what I should have done. I said, one of these days when you get sick of doing the balcony dives, your gimmick is guy who stays in the ring and does wrestling moves. You know what I mean? Get the table, set it up, and then roll back in the ring and put a headlock in.
Right, for heat.
Yeah, like you can get 10 more years out of that, man, because everybody's going to think of Matthew Justice. Oh, here we go. Here comes the walk and brawl. You just stick in that fucking ring and just slow things down to a fucking crawl for the heat, man. You could do it. You get another 10 years out of your career doing it.
Yeah. You mentioned Cesar Duran coming out to say, here comes the Lucha, right? Introduce the Lucha portion of the show. It's interesting because I'm positive you didn't watch this back on TV, but on TV, they did this whole storyline where he got kidnapped.
Yes, so we saw that. We saw that on the big screen.
Oh, they did air that. Okay,
yes,
they aired all that stuff. And they aired what's her name coming out at the end of the show. Say, where the fuck is my father?
Saladina, and then having we saw that in the venue. We saw that in the building because what was really weird though, did they tie this loose end up or not necessarily a loose end, but so Cesar comes out and he goes, it's time for the Lucha or whatever. And then literally like 4 minutes later, whatever that first, or like 10 minutes later, whenever that first match is done, we go backstage and someone's like, Cesar's been kidnapped or whatever. Did they ever explain?
No, he never appeared on TV.
Okay, weird. Oh, because they filmed.
I was going to ask you.
Well, because
I was going to ask you if he was even there.
So he was there. Yes, he was there. Wait, they never showed his opening promo.
I mean,
in the building,
I don't remember them showing it.
Huh? Because he was in the building.
The chat can correct me, but
yeah, because he came out. He came out and made fun of us for not making enough noise and said, "I thought you're." He goes, "You're as quiet as my newborn baby, my baby that's about to be born or whatever." So
baby wasn't born yet. Take it easy, Cesar.
Yeah, but it was soon enough. It was born, but yeah. So my guess was, of course, that Cesar was not. Selena wasn't in the building, but Cesar was. So they did the Cesar stuff in front of the crowd and the Selena stuff. Pre-tape or whatever.
At some point during the show, they had it was during the Matthew Justice Bad Dude Tito match when one of them went through a table, and Lawlor referenced Sabu, but he pronounced it Sabu. Have we been pronouncing his name wrong? Is it Sabu?
Don't listen to Tom Lawler. What does he know? No.
Well, I always question my pronunciations because they always, let's face it, they're usually wrong. But he kept calling him Sabu.
No.
But I have always called him Sabu.
I think
right?
you and Tom Lawler are doing the same gimmick here. I think mispronouncing people's names are
gimmick. Excuse me, sir.
I apologize.
Did you hear Chris Jericho on Dynamite?
Oh, the Tenru one? Yeah, I'm shook. I don't know what it is anymore.
He called him he did the hard G?
Yeah, Genichiru or whatever. Yeah, and I was like,
Genichiru?
Yeah.
He called him Genichiru Tenryu?
And I'm like, he knows him. Yeah, and he knows him.
He knows him. He gave it like 19 extra syllables.
Yeah, because I say like Genichiru
Tenryu.
I say like Genichiru Tenru. You know what I mean? And that's how I've said it for my entire life. Yeah.
I've always called him Genichiru Tenru. He called him Genichirayu Tenryu. Like he gave it 19 syllables.
He is a heel though, and I don't know. Is he doing a heel gimmick here, or what are we doing? I don't know.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking, because I never heard it pronounced that way. But at the same time, how many times have I heard his first name pronounced? I don't know how the answer to that.
But just be ring announcing. Yeah, just ring announcing pretty much is the only time.
Right. So it's like I've been questioning whether I've been saying all these names. I've never heard Sabu.
Sabu.
Like SAAAHBOO, like Sabu. Is that what he
long
was saying?
long A from Tom Lawler. Interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, not Sabu.
Maybe it's a regional dialect. Where's Tom Lawler from? He's a Northeast guy or something like that, right? Isn't he? I actually don't know where. I have no idea where Tom Lawler's from.
Where is he from? He has a pretty neutral accent.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm saying that, but he's like a very neutral accent guy. He's like, he could be from Washington or Ohio or I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess we both saw the Cesar kidnapped angle, which I don't know.
I don't care. Yeah. And then Selena saying, "Where's my phone?" Oh, as she reaches at her midsection, as you know the gimmick. I the second it happened, I was like, "Oh, come on, we're gonna have the oh no, I'm having my baby here backstage at the Cicero Stadium." Not a good place to have a child.
When he got kidnapped, she threw the mask to her boy toy and said, "Put on this mask and go find my father." Why does he have to put on the mask?
I don't know. Just go find it. Yeah, just go find him. Yeah.
I don't. How about just go find it? How about call the police? That'd be my first move.
The handsome man. Remember when he unmasked that Christian Cologne guy? The guy you say he sounds like Christian Cage. I think he sounds like Don Callis, but that just means we think he sounds like a Canadian guy because they have the same voice. Christian Cage and Don Callis have the same voice, so we're just coming at it from two different angles. But I'll never forget when he took that mask off. And Christian Cologne goes, "Joe, that's one of the most handsome men I've ever seen in my entire life." Like so earnestly, I loved it. He's like, "Joe,
the way he said, too.
That's one of the most handsome men I've ever seen in my entire life."
Yeah, it's just the best looking man I've ever seen.
Right. Yeah. So good.
So great. So but yeah, she makes him put the mask on to go find her father, who they never found, by the way.
No. No, they did. Oh, no, they did. They did. They did. Did they show this? Did they not show this?
Man, maybe. I don't know.
There's a lot of MLW lore.
I gotta admit, am I paying 110% attention when I'm watching this?
You're not locked in? We're an MLW
you
podcast.
Want me to take you behind the Lanza curtain here? Yeah. I mean, it's possible.
It was on one of your four TVs at a certain point, while also
exactly
A10 basketball was on the other one, and you were locked in. So.
Yeah, and I've got money on all the games. Like let's be honest, I'm missing some of this.
Yeah, I think you were watching this on a Sunday too, possibly. So you got NFL going on, you got college basketball.
Yeah,
so
who knows what else?
No, they did find Cesar Duran backstage. He was tied up, and that's when she screamed and went, "Oh, father, there you are," or whatever. And then that's when she went, "Oh, it's time." And then he goes, "No, not here." And then so she ran away to go have her child in the bowels of the Cicero Stadium.
Right.
And then he went into his suit pocket. And there was a piece of paper, and he got the piece of paper out, and he read it, and he looked up, and then we faded to black. But what was on the piece of paper, I don't know.
Oh, well.
This feud must continue.
Yeah. Do you think when they taped all these Selena segments in bulk, they did them like 6 months ago and we're just playing this out?
We gotta be, yeah.
She probably had this baby already. You know
She had the baby just this morning, actually. Just this morning.
Oh, like as a shoot?
Yeah, no, as a shoot. Yeah, not in the Cicero Stadium.
Oh, okay.
I saw this. November 14th. Major League Wrestling has reported that she gave birth to her child. So
I was thinking maybe the kid was like 3 years old by now, and this was all pre-taped.
Right.
Shortly after COVID or something. Because Lawlor did brawl with Dijak. They set up Dijak Lawlor with the premise of Lawlor used to be in the Mr. St. Laurent.
Yeah, World Titan Federation. The World Titan Federation.
Right, but now Dijak, is his guy now. So they did set that up. Did you notice ringside? Now, first of all, that ring was where'd they get this fucking ring? That ring was a disaster.
It was
the ring
not great.
at the New Japan show was bad too. But around the ring, they had like gymnastics mats on one side. And then on the other side, they had like children's playground mats. You know what kind I'm talking about?
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
They're like rubber and they have the interlocking like a puzzle.
Yeah, puzzle mats. Yeah, like children's puzzle mats. Yeah.
Puzzle mats on two sides of the ring. And they had like not even gymnastics mats, like old gym class mats.
Yeah.
From a middle school that has no budget. And it's the same mats that your parents had when they went to that middle school. Like those kind of mats. They had those on two sides.
They'll have ringworm on them. They're just filled with ringworm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Years.
It's just staph infections waiting to happen. And then the other two were the interlocking children's mats, and they didn't even cover much surface area, these tiny mats. At that point, why even have the mats, right? But it did not come across, no pun intended, very major league on this evening from Cicero. But I don't have many other thoughts on the show. It wasn't a good show or anything. There wasn't even a lot to riff on, honestly. We could usually come on here and riff on it. I don't have a ton to riff on with this one. The Contra unit did retain the tag team titles because that just turned into a schmaz at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Matthew Justice is the new openweight champion by beating Bad Dude Tito in the Falls Count Anywhere match. And Mystico is eternal, and he's never going to lose that title. Now, Slaughterhouse, which Rich said on the phone to me after the show was the worst show he's ever seen, and he was going to give Court Bauer a piece of his mind. Weapons of mass destruction. Did you bring your mask? Did you bring the nurses certified?
No. So here's the problem. I forgot my mask, and I felt like an idiot. And worse yet, when they're setting up the match, when they're weaponizing. So what they do is they put a bunch of plastic. This is a spoiler, by the way, if you want to lock in for Slaughterhouse. Just let you know. I don't know when this is going to air. I think it's going to air later this month. 23rd. Okay, the 23rd. So spoiler alerts if you don't want to be spoiled by MLW Slaughterhouse. They Joe weaponized the ring, and what that meant was they put a bunch of plastic leaves on the guardrails. And that was weaponizing. Plastic leaves. I don't know. Everything was like from Platoon. I don't know. Everything was like from Vietnam. For some reason.
See.
You know what I mean? It was all like, it was like a jungle. They made this into like a jungle. And then they brought in the crates. Now, as they're starting to put the crates out, I'm like, oh, fuck. One of these crates looked like, just a normal little crate that probably had some weapons in it. These small little crates alongside the ring. And then they wheel out this big fucking green crate. And it's got a bunch of writing on it. And it's got caution all over it. And I go, motherfucker, that's the one. That's got the weapon of mass destruction in it. They wheel that thing inches from me. I'm 5 feet away from that box. And I hate to spoil this, but somebody gets put into that box and it does not go well.
Was there Agent Orange?
I don't know. I think so. I've tested for everything, and I'm so good. I was a little sick yesterday. I don't know. Yeah, so far I think I'm okay, but I was inches away from the crate of doom, because when they opened that crate, all the backstage guys came out and were like, no, don't do it. Unfortunately, nothing happened. Like, somebody got put in the crate and we didn't see anything. And then they just close the lid, and then everybody goes, no, God damn it, no. And then they just open the crate, and the guy got out. But
no mustard gas is what you're telling me.
Well, maybe. I don't know. No. Because you could see the announcers like wiping their faces off and like coughing.
Yeah.
So it's the same gimmick. Yeah. So the idea is that in this crate is something. Who the fuck knows? And I'm sure they're going to, in post-production, add smoke or something, or I don't know what the fuck they're going to add. But in the building, it looked kind of ridiculous because it's just like, a guy got put in the crate and the door got shut. And then everybody's like, oh, my God, what are you doing? Don't do it. And then, so it was kind of ridiculous. But, so far I'm okay. So far I'm okay.
I don't know. You're going to have like that long COVID now. You're going to have trouble breathing. And out of nowhere, it's going to be the mustard gas that you inhaled from the Weapons of Mass Destruction match. Satoshi Kojima versus Bobby Fish in the Joe Lanza offer match will be on that show. Paul London versus Kenta. In the match that should have taken place 20 years earlier. Minoru Suzuki, Matt Riddle. That's a rematch from Bloodsport, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
From Bloodsport 1.
Yeah, it was. Wasn't as good.
Del Miexo, Gigi Ray.
Oh my God.
Spoilers, Rich Cage. Spoilers.
I'm sorry to tell you. That, yes, you'll have to wait and see, but I couldn't even contain it. Oh my God.
Donovan Dijakovic versus Kevin Knight, Okamura, and Akira Kwan. So that's Slaughterhouse. And then we have Eric Bischoff's one shot coming up next
Why
month.
can't we enjoy anything in wrestling? Why does Eric Bischoff have to come to MLW?
You're looking at this from the totally wrong perspective. We are going to be able to roast this show. We're going to be able to burn 2 hours of a flagship.
Fuck, you're right.
Who are you kidding?
You're right.
Okay.
I'm back. Coming up with a little smile.
Better than ever. That's what they're going to. It's either going to be that or right. It's going to be one or the other. So it depends what copyright they want to fuck with, and walk the line with the most, right? Because his dopey little show on the Conrad Network that doesn't have like a theme song.
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
They just hit the air and do their thing. They don't do like some kind of wacky, like we do. They don't have some goofy introduction.
They might. I don't. I'm not locked into the 83 weeks or the Wise Choices.
I gotta be honest. Yeah. Me neither. But so it's gonna be one of the two.
You're right. I'm looking at it as, oh God, I have to watch Eric Bischoff. But not like you're saying. I gotta look on the bright side that Eric Bischoff, this show is gonna suck, and we're gonna be able to make fun of Eric Bischoff for 2 hours.
Bro, I'm writing the jokes already. Are you kidding me? And it's just, you're looking at it. You're taking the wrong tact here. So Mystico defends against Trevor Lee. I forgot he existed.
Yep.
I'll be completely honest.
Yep.
I forgot Trevor Lee as a human existed until they announced.
Have you seen his new look? Have you seen what he looks like these days?
I have seen his look. Okay. I haven't seen him wrestle yet, but I do see what he looks like. Donovan Dijak and Matt Riddle. I don't know. I guess Tom Lawlor is still not available. But that's all we have announced so far for Eric Bischoff's one shot. We do have a match announced for January's Kings of Coliseum in North Richland Hills, Texas.
You got to go, Joe. You got to go. I know isn't it like 3 hours from your house? I think it's like just outside of Dallas. So
I don't have a clue.
I think I looked
Richland,
it up.
Texas.
I think I looked it up because even at the show they were like, "We'll be the Dallas area or whatever," and I was like, "Oh, Joe should go to that." And I'm like, "Wait, he's nowhere near Dallas." But
someone asked me if I was going to go to that, and I didn't answer them yet. But that's a long drive. That's like a 4-hour drive.
Yeah, for MLW.
I don't know.
That's a lot for MLW. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the kind of drive where you have to consider staying the night. You got to think about it. I don't know if I want to do that. What day is January 11th? Let me see.
Probably a Saturday. I bet a Saturday.
It's a Saturday. Probably not.
That's a lot. That's a lot of driving for MLW. I only had to drive like 30 minutes, so it's a big difference.
Anyway, there is a match announced for that. Mystico defends against Cavanario.
Yep.
So, there you go.
So there's a great Suit Williams has a great gimmick here. By the way, free. We'll just pass this on to MLW if you're listening, and they should listen because we are an MLW podcast, so they should listen. Here's a great idea that we're giving you guys for free. All credit to Suit Williams. So make sure you, if you're going to pay anybody, you pay Suit for that. Quote, They should have MSL hand out Jay Brone's WTF ID contracts. So MSL gives Jay Brone's WTF ID contracts. That rocks, actually. Yes. They should do
that. Good
that.
idea.
You know, have some job match, and the guy loses, and then MSL comes out. It's like, you know, you show great potential, kid. Here's one of these, you know, WTF ID contract. And then nobody takes them, you know, and they're just like, the fuck is this? No, you get out of here. And then they get their asses kicked.
Right. Then they beat him up.
Yeah, it's a great gimmick. Yeah, Dijak just beats the fuck out. Like, this job guy loses to somebody, and then MSL comes out, says, you show great potential, kid. Here you go. And then, you know, the guy obviously is going to say, no, I'm not going to say. And then Dijak just beats the fuck out of him. It works. Writes itself. So there you go.
It's not a bad idea. It's actually 3 hours. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
But when I Google it, it also suggests flights. So
that's always ominous. Yeah, that's always ominous when it says, "Do you want to fly?" Could you fly? Like, is there a airport? Like, do you guys have is it just like a regional airport or?
Yeah, 10 minutes down the road. Yeah.
Okay. Is this like you get on the tarmac? Is this like you get on the plane on the tarmac, or is it like a real?
Yeah, you get on
airline?
the little mini plane where you have to balance the weight by having equal people on both sides.
I'm not doing that.
Then you fly to a real airport and get on your connected flight. You know what I mean? Like, there's no 747s, but it's way more convenient to just park your car down the street. And for like when you come home and everything, you know what I mean? I don't have to drive home from Houston or Austin or Dallas. If you know, so it's from that standpoint, sometimes I will spend the extra money and just fly out of the local airport where I can leave my house 20 minutes before the flight and have my car waiting for me when I land.
See that now you're appealing to me. Now you're appealing to me as opposed to leaving the house 3 hours before your flight, or getting to the airport 4 hours before.
Yeah, and in my case, driving 2 hours to Houston, 2 hours to Austin, or 3 hours to Dallas.
Yeah, okay.
To get to the this way I could just fly to those airports on a 25-minute flight. I could even Uber to the airport down the street. You know what I mean? It's just so much easier. So, but it is pricier. It's like it's more money, but we make a solid wage around here. Take the little 20-minute flight.
You're not flying that often. How often you fly? Like,
I don't fly that often.
I was gonna say, you fly like twice a fucking.
But I mean, part of the being so far from the real airports is the fucking drive to and from the real airport.
Yeah,
like that's a pain in the
balls.
And
the stress is there too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If I have a fucking 8 a.m. flight, see, that's the thing. I can't even book like an 8 or 9 a.m. flight out of one of these airports.
You'd have to leave your house at 3 a.m.
I have to leave my house at 3 or 4 in the morning. It's preposterous. So then it's like that limits the flights you can take. You know what I mean? I have to fly in the fucking afternoon or at night. So so being able to fly out down the street is very convenient, and it's worth the extra, a couple $100 that it costs. Or
I don't trust those little planes. I don't like them.
But I don't trust any plane. I'm shitting my pants any flight that I'm on. So it's like, whatever. But if I see like propellers, that's when I'm out.
That's what I mean. The pilot's got to go out there and go, vroom, vroom, vroom. He's got to start the propellers. I'm not into that. I don't love that.
Pulling a cord like it's a lawnmower.
Yeah.
That's when I'm, like trying to get it started.
Right. All right, we got to move this. You got to move with this guy. We got to balance the weight. Like, I'm already out at that point. I'm already at like.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
That's not a bit.
That's terrifying. I've done one of those flights, and I'm like, this fucking. I'm out. When we landed, I was like, thank God, I'm never doing one of these ever again. I was terrified.
I'm like, wait a minute, balance the weight. What's happening here? Is this gonna be fucking? Am I gonna be like?
I just think of Buddy Holly. I'm just thinking of Buddy fucking Holly. Yeah, right. I go to Buddy Holly. You went to Ric Flair and Johnny Valentine. Yeah, I don't like any of those.
Bobby Shane. Come on. This is not how I want it to end.
No.
I had a lot of Ellie De La Cruz games to watch. I can't be fucking on one of these planes.
Especially just some random field in East Texas or whatever. That'd be the worst way to die.
And kids to raise, I guess, too.
Yeah.
But, Ellie games
you bring that up after De La Cruz.
Squeeze it in there. But man. It's a great player, Rich. It's very exciting.
Yeah, one of a kind player. I mean, these kids are kids, but they're one of a kind legend we're watching here. Yeah.
Kids are dime a dozen, Could go pork my wife and produce another one of those. That's no big deal.
How many bases does your kids steal? Not as many as.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Believe me, that boy's not stealing many. He's not too fleet of foot. So, yeah. But anyway, that was the MLW as we stutter and stall for time because we don't have shit to talk about on this show. What do we got left here?
No, we got a couple things left. We have. I'm
right.
stalling because I don't want to talk about Fighting Spirit Unleashed, but I can give you a little bit of Dragongate as well. But you know what? Let's do Fighting Spirit Unleashed. We might as well just do that. And if I got it, it would be very becoming of us to just end with Dragongate and maybe not even get to it. But we'll try.
Well, that's how you got it. You got to end with the Dragongate.
Got to end with the Dragongate. So let's fucking do it. Fighting Spirit Unleashed. So it announced 1,022 in the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. This building stinks, by the way, for wrestling. I don't know why anybody runs this fucking building, and it is stunk forever. I don't know what's like in the building. I don't know. I'm not gonna go to the Lowell Memorial Auditorium anytime in my life, so I have no idea if it's a good place to watch wrestling. But it's a place that I remember a couple of months ago on Brett versus Owen. There was an episode of Raw in 1994 that they filmed at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium, and on that show, in that series, I'm ranting. I'm like, what the fuck is this building? It's dark, it's dreary, it looks like shit. What the hell are they running this building for? And this is in 1994 when they were running some pretty damn dreary buildings. This is the most dreary building, and I looked it up and I was like, oh, the Lowell Memorial Auditorium. I'm like, oh man, really? Okay. This is the building where Shawn Michaels lost his smile, gave up the title. There's been a lot of other things that have run in this building. It always looks like garbage, though. It's dark, it's dreary, it's weird. And God, was this show dark, dreary, and weird. Man, was this this looked like West Coast Pro. This is sub indie. Look here for Fighting Spirit Unleashed, man. It was a horrific looking show. But we'll get to that in one sec. Last time New Japan ran this building, September 27, 2019, Fighting Spirit Unleashed Boston. 2,130 in it. So, yeah, big difference. Obviously, losing basically 1,000 people since 2019. It's a long time ago. I get it. But, yeah, 1,022 in the Lowell Memorial Auditorium for Fighting Spirit Unleashed. But what do you think of the show's
How many
look?
people? Oh, wait, how many people were at the previous show there?
2,130.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were a lot of visible empty seats
Yes.
for this one, too.
Mostly on the stage. Where here's the thing. If I'm running a show, and I put 30 seats or whatever, 30, 40 seats on the stage, and 14 people show up, I'm finding somebody and saying, you want a stage seat? I'm fine. Right. I'm going up to the bowels of the arena and saying, hey, look, you're all the way back here. You want to get to the stage. The wrestlers will walk right by you. You know, bathroom's right here. It's a better seat. We'll put you there.
Yeah.
They decided, no, we'll just have like 2 rows of visible empty seats on our hard cam and in everybody's entrance. Everybody's entrance and every hard cam shot was just visible empty seats with spotlights on them. You have a red spotlight and a blue spotlight spotlighting the empty seats. Not the way that I would do it.
Yeah, I mean, the atmosphere of the really hurt the show a lot because I did think that there was some good wrestling on this show. It was just a slog to get through. You know, like this opener, Finlay and Kevin Knight. I thought it was a good wrestling match. You know, they went out there and worked hard and, you know, perfectly acceptable opener. Now there were a couple matches that didn't work at all. I mean, the West Coast Wrecking Crew versus Rosser and Lawlor with their big best 3 out of falls with all the different stipulations. It was tables and then submission and then last man standing. And of course it went to the third fall. I mean, the match just didn't work. And, you know, you noted that maybe Lawler's injured. I hadn't heard that, but, this has been a program that's been happening and a feud that has been built really since New Japan Strong has existed. Right. And it's like, it had no heat in the building, or at least didn't come across on the stream. No one cared. The match wasn't good. It was certainly the low point of the show. And it's just, you know, nothing says New Japan Strong quite like the West Coast Wrecking Crew.
They are synonymous. Show. They're synonymous with the brand, man. For better and or for worse. Probably for worse.
Well, for absolute worse.
Right.
I mean, you know, so they just feel like they need people to fill these shows. Do you know New Japan has 13 titles and 18 different title holders?
My God. 13?
They have 13 titles and 18 different men and women hold titles in New Japan. That's a lot of titles.
Seems like too many. Yeah, I feel like that might be too many.
And it's a lot of champions. And I just really feel like Strong doesn't need these titles. If you want to have a strong champion, something to build the shows around, the title that Gabe Kidd holds, that's fine. Do we need strong tag team champions? The answer is no. Okay, you can have your junior champs or your IWGP tag champs come in for these things. You don't need strong tag team champions. New Japan does not need 2 women's titles, Rich. It's ridiculous. For a promotion that doesn't even book women's matches, they book, one women's match as a novelty on these Strong shows. And then a couple times a year, max, you'll get a women's match on a New Japan show proper in Japan. Why do they have 2 women's titles? It's ridiculous. And then it just waters everything down. So, New Japan doesn't need 13 championships. So TMDK, though, they've now lost both sets of titles.
I know. Just a couple weeks ago, we were talking about them and these titles and why they have both sets of titles and they have all the gold and stuff. And man, how the mighty have fallen so quickly. They have no titles now.
The mighty have knelt.
Yeah, they have definitely knelt. Damn.
They've knelt. Is knelt a word? Yeah, they knelt. Grizzled Young Vets are the new champs.
Yeah.
Grit your teeth.
I have not loved what I've seen out of those guys.
No,
they're kind of boring.
Tony Khan brought him in with a lot of fanfare and then does nothing with them.
He does nothing,
and
yeah.
They're in the buildings because they took part in that big private party championship celebration a couple weeks ago on Collision or whatever show that was on. And they were out there with the other heel teams, like grimacing and gritting their teeth. But they never fucking wrestle in AEW. So, New Japan uses them here. These guys have had great matches before, but look, there's only so much you're going to get out of TMDK with Shane Haste on the team. But this was just a nothing match. It's just a nothing match. But Grizzled Young Vets are the champs. They will not be in the World Tag League. We did get the full. I broke down the full World Tag League brackets or blocks on Flagship Plus because remember last week we only knew 4 teams. So I did talk about that on the Flagship Plus and also the All Japan Real World Tag League. I reviewed the first show and broke down those blocks as well, but the Strong Champs won't be part of that. Leo Rush versus Mustafa Ali. I think we're all out on Mustafa Ali at this point.
I am
right?
as out as you could possibly be out. Yeah.
Yeah. The guy it hasn't worked out.
The gimmick, he's still doing like the politic
is
gimmick.
He still doing that?
Sort
yeah,
of. Yeah. It's just like, man, I think it's done. I think that gimmick's done for a little while.
Just hasn't been great. Hasn't even, he's barely been good on this indie run. AEW has shown no interest. So Leo Rush, this match was good. There was nothing wrong with the match, but again, every match on this show was held back by the atmosphere and the fact that there was only 1,000 people there and everything else. Hazuki wins the 4-way over Koguma, Trish Adora, and Anna Jay, who AEW is making sure to give all kinds of work all over the place, which is the right thing to do. They send her to Stardom. They send her to these shows. She needs the reps.
Oh, she needs them.
She needs the reps badly. I don't know. I don't know enough about Hazuki to break down what kind of match she could have with Mercedes. That's where I'm hoping you could shed some insight.
Nah, I haven't seen much of her, to be honest. But
okay.
I will say that this match, I didn't think it was that bad, and I thought the parts where Hazuki and Koguma were in there were okay. Like, that's actually when the match I think was the best, when it was just those two in there working, and the rest was just kind of, you had your 4-way stuff. So you had a lot of the tropey, my turn, your turn, my turn. Okay, now these two people are going to sell while we have this one-on-one match. Okay, this person's gone. So a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I haven't seen enough of Hazuki to really give a huge thought too. From what I've seen, I don't know that she's any real great shakes. Like I don't know that I'm like eagerly anticipating her versus Monet. If that's kind of your question, I guess would be. Okay. I don't think that's going to be like, oh man, like cancel your plans because Suzuki and Monet are going to face off. It's I don't think it's quite to that level with her.
All right, so if you're a Joshi fan on Twitter with tentacle porn in your avatar, that was Rich Craich. So when you're loading the anthrax into the envelope,
right, that was me. Yeah, because I think people love. I think they think she's like phenomenal, and I don't know. I've never seen it, but I haven't watched enough to say. So who knows? But yes,
yeah, just you're sending that envelope to Downers
Correct.
Grove, Illinois, not to, not to. Everyone knows where I live, but I'm still not going to say it because I'm scared. Shingo and Yota Tsuji defeat Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. Man, I was looking forward. I thought this could be a really kick-ass match, but it wasn't. It was just a match. And there'd be bigger news later in the show with Shingo as they're doing title for title with Takeshita. But man, just a sleepy show and an underwhelming sleepy tag team match with these two teams. I didn't think much of it.
Nah, yeah, this was really nothing. And one thing I wanted to say quickly about the 2 out of 3 falls, the West Coast Wrecking Crew Dirty Work. Somehow they only announced that match at 15 minutes. That's bullshit. There's no way the match was only 15 minutes. The match was like 35 minutes. But what's weird about it is like at certain times the match was good. It just went too fucking long. And it was like every time the match got good, they would lose the crowd. And then it would get good again, and then they would lose the crowd, then it got good again, then they would lose the crowd, and then it got good again. And then there was like 9 minutes where the crowd was just out, and the crowd was like, all right, we're done. We're fucking done. Please stop. Please stop this match. We've seen enough of the West Coast Wrecking Crew and Dirty Work. Please stop. Get out of this ring. And they just wouldn't get out of the fucking ring. And that thing lasted way, way, way longer than it needed to. That would have been a much better match done, 9 minutes, 8 minutes, somewhere around there. But you got to do this big, epic 2 out of 3 falls match. But nobody gave a fuck about the epic, 2 out of 3 falls match to these guys. And poor Fred Rosser just bleeding buckets out there too for this
bleeding
match.
Buckets. That guy worked so hard, and the feud he had with Tom Lawlor was good, and then a lot of those matches were good, and now obviously Lawlor is on the outs, and this has been an ongoing story in the company for years. Lawlor used to lead these other guys and be a rival of Raw. Now their team, but it just no one in the building cared, and it just wasn't very good. Rohei Oiwa defeats Kenta. I really liked this. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and tell you got to go out of your way to see it. But you know what I liked about this? They didn't try to reinvent the wheel. But Kenta went in there with a plan and told a story. And it was like watching a mid to late 80s WWF house show match, mid-card house show match, where the heel leads the way and they tell a little story and the babyface steals the win and the heel kicks the ropes and threatens the referee. And you know what? I enjoyed this well enough for what it was.
Yeah. I'm telling you, Kenta's solid. 2024 Kenta is okay.
Yeah.
The years past where he was just...
you know what it is?
He gets it. He finally gets it.
He understands his limitations.
Yeah.
And he works within them. His body's in shambles, right? But he still stays in great shape. Do you notice that? Like, for a guy his age, like he still has fucking a defined chest.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
like,
you'll see when you lock in for MLW Slaughterhouse, him and Paul London, it's like night and day. What their body looks like at this point in 2024. And they both worked hard styles. They both worked very hard styles for a number of years. But, some of the people I was with, they were like, oh man, how old's that guy? And how old's that guy? I was like, there's 1 year difference between these men. These men are not that old. Like that guy is 43 years old. Kenta is like 42, 43. And that guy right next to him, he's 43 or 44. Paul London, like they're right next to each other in age. Kenta still looks pretty damn good for his age. Paul London does not. Paul London looks like a guy who's 45 years old and hanging on to every last bit of wrestling ability that he possibly has. Kenta, yeah, the body's a mess, like you said, if you really look at it physically. But in terms of how it looks, like he looks, he doesn't look that dramatically different than he did, 20 years ago.
Right. And now to be fair to Paul London, he hasn't been a full-time pro wrestler, and Kenta has. So, Paul London works every now and again, and fuck, man, he's in his mid 40s. Like, and he doesn't do this for a living anymore. So it's not like, But I understand the point you're making, and the bigger picture point here is Kenta still looks the part, and he knows his limitations and works to them. He belongs nowhere near the top of a card. Okay, we all know that. And there's going to be nights where Kenta obviously stinks the place up and shits the bed. But like you're saying, he's had a lot of matches this year, particularly in MLW, and this match here, where and look, he had that match in Defy against Brian Keith, where it was a main event championship match, and they had a really good 20-minute match until they did the Kenta finish at the end. Because that's the standard Kenta match. This wasn't the standard Kenta match. This was, like I said, the best way I could describe it. A WWF house show mid-card match from 1987, where they've been on the road 17 straight days.
Right.
They're tired. They don't want to bump anymore, but they tell a story that gets the fans invested, and everybody cheers at the end when the babyface, gets the roll up and the heel does the histrionics, because there was a lot of hold grabbing and stuff, but they told a cohesive story. And I actually enjoyed this match more than some of the other matches on the card, which were quote unquote better matches, if that makes any sense. Business end. Shota Umino and Tomohiro Ishii over Bad Dude Tito and Zack Sabre Jr. Obviously, you have the Wrestle Kingdom opponents on opposite sides here. Again, the work was fine. This is a perfect example of what I was just talking about. I enjoyed the Kenta Rohei Oiwa match more than this, even though this was technically a better match, where guys took more bumps and worked harder and all of that. But I don't know. It just felt empty to me.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of with you. Oiwa and Kenta did sort of land with me a little bit more than a lot of the other matches on the show, because like you said, it felt a little bit more like there was a purpose to everything that was happening, and it did feel like there was some energy and some emotion in there, and that's why I like Oiwa. That's why I like Oiwa over a lot of these other guys, a lot of their other young lions. I think he gets it, that it factor. There's probably better workers, and we'll talk about Kosei Fujita in the main event, because I think Kosei Fujita is a good worker, but I think Oiwa gets it more than all these other guys, and I think that speaks to what you're talking about here with Umino and these guys, is that like he's a guy who I talked about it many times, doesn't get it. He does what he thinks is what I'm supposed to do as a New Japan pro wrestler, what I'm supposed to do as a high level Japanese wrestler or whatever, but he doesn't, there's no energy in it, there's no emotion in it, there's no thought in it. It's just, all right, here we go, here's forearm, all right, this sort of thing, where I think Oiwa kind of, it clicks with him a little bit more. He gets what it means to be a pro wrestler more than a lot of these other guys. But yeah, I have no strong thoughts about this tag match.
All right, so then we had Takeshita versus TJP. This was probably, I didn't like the main event. I'll just say that off the top. So to me, this was, and there's going to be a reason for it, and it really didn't have anything to do with the work. You know where I'm going with it.
I think so.
But yeah, so this was the best worked match on the show, I thought. But all the and TJP chose to do the Aswang.
I was gonna say we got the Aswang out here, so
yeah, Aswang, Rich.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm a master of pronunciation, as we've discussed. So that takes a little bit away from it. Although he wasn't super over the top about it, he did do a missed spot at the end, though. He did spit the mist. Takeshita retains, but the big story obviously is title for title with Shingo, which is very interesting. That they're gonna do a double champ in the Tokyo Dome. And then, so Takeshita wins and Shingo comes out and does the face off and all that. We should mention Mane did come out to cut a promo with Hazuki standing in the corner to set up the match that they're going to have. I don't know if they've announced that yet for whatever show.
I think they did. Yeah, actually, I think I have a pretty good card for, let me get that fired up. I think they have a pretty good card set for their next
let's wrap this up.
Strong show. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll wrap this up first. So, Gabe Kidd, Kosei Fujita. So, the pre-match video, how they train together at the dojo and all that, and now they've kind of gone in different directions, and there was a more of a story coming into this,
which I liked. It was a good little story.
Yeah. Now the match didn't draw, so from that standpoint, they didn't get the story over to the ticket buying public, And I don't expect Gabe Kidd, Kosei Fujita to draw a packed house in fucking Massachusetts. Okay. But it didn't. So it met the expectations I didn't have from that standpoint. Look, I don't need the mid-match promo. It took me right out of it. Maybe I'm a grump. Maybe I'm just too fickle when it comes to this kind of stuff. But for him to grab the house mic and just start cutting a promo, Rich, I don't need it. I don't want it. I don't have time for it. I just want to watch wrestling.
Show don't tell. Gabe Kidd is a classic example of show don't tell, and that man fucking tells, and he tells, and he tells, and he tells, and he tells, and I think he's a great worker. There's a lot of really good talent in him. You don't need to go with you don't have to do the fucking every time you get a guy down, go, this fucking guy fucking sucks, and fuck you, and you fucking this the fucking asshole, fuck us, and we get it, man. Show don't tell. You know what I mean? Like,
look,
literally
he's
grabbing
got a chance
the mic.
to be a really big star, though.
Yeah,
he has a chance to be a big star.
Oh yeah,
but,
yeah.
I don't need that. It doesn't do Fujita any favors to be selling on the floor while you're cursing on the house mic and doing a mid-match promo. I don't know. I just it's not for me. I don't know who it's for. And it just takes me right out of it. And it's a shame because, I did think the work in the match was really good, but I lost all interest in the match once they started doing that bullshit.
Yeah, I liked it maybe a little bit more than you. Because I thought the work was pretty good. I thought Fujita looked solid enough in this match.
The work was great. Yeah,
I thought Gabe Kidd looked really good. But yeah, I had the same complaints too. I and my notes just say Gabe, show don't tell, and I'm going to say it again. And I say it 1,000 times about this guy. I like him a lot. I think there's a lot of talent there. I really do. But someone's got to get to him and just say, brother, you don't have to do this cheap baby's first heel bullshit every single time in every single match. You don't have to scream and swear and point and swear and then like literally just grab the mic and just start cutting promos every single time the guy's selling. It's just it doesn't work. And like you said, I don't know who it works for. Whatever. Even if it works in the short term, that's not the long term play. You got to have a little bit more to your game. You got to be better than that. And it's not. It's just low. It comes across really lowbrow and very very try hardy. And that's kind of unfortunately been the issue with Gabe Kidd. Is it seems like he's trying really, really, really hard to be edgy and really, really hard to be a heel. And it's like, man, you got a lot of that in you already. And I think he's a super talented worker. And that personality and that sort of, because he's got charisma, he's got personality, he's got all that sort of stuff. That stuff can be harnessed in so much better ways than every time the guy's on the outside of the ring selling, standing up and saying, "This fucking he fucking sucks. This guy fucking sucks, and you fucking suck. Fucking get the fuck out of my fucking ring. You fucking suck." It's like, we heard you, man. You know what I mean? Like, we got you. And he did that like every opportunity he had. Like,
now he's getting the gimmick over, and they're supposed to be abrasive and uncouth and all of that, but it's just, sometimes it's a little too heavy-handed. It's the whole War Dog thing. It's just too heavy-handed. I don't.
We heard you. You know what? We heard you. We got it.
We heard you. You've gotten the gimmick over at this point.
You're edgy and you're abrasive. We got you. Okay, we got it.
I could almost I could deal with it in a prelim.
Right, it's main event.
It bothers me more in the championship match at the end of the show.
Right.
And I do think it's disrespectful in all the wrong ways towards Fujita. Right. He's a heel. He's supposed to be disrespectful, but it's a fine line. I think you understand what I'm trying to say, though, because then Fujita, who's in a huge match for this stage of his career, is, looks like a total geek just laying there while this guy curses at him with the house mic.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't work for me, but the work was excellent. I still don't see future superstar in Fujita like some people.
No.
I don't see it, Rich. I don't know. I don't want to. I got a DM about that, and someone's like, "You're in not so many words, you're gonna be wrong, and you were wrong about Despy, and you're gonna be wrong about this guy." And I said, this from someone in the business, and I said, "I hope you're right." I would love to be
wrong. I would love to be wrong. I would love to think. I'd love this guy to be the Wrestle Kingdom main eventer multiple times over. That'd be great.
Yeah, I like Kosei Fujita. I like watching him wrestle. I would. That's one I would love to take an L on. Now let me defend myself. When I called Despy
Still
a
getting
mid-level
this.
junior,
Still at
okay?
this.
When I called El Desperado a nice little mid-level junior, that's exactly what he was, right? He had never won a tournament. He had never won a title at that point, remember? And here's the thing, Rich Craich. I was a huge Despy fan before it was cool, remember?
Oh yeah.
But when he first, I was like the original Despy fan. When other people were like, who's the dork with the guitar case? I'm like, no, this guy rocks. He's a nut. I want to remember I was screaming about wanting to watch him feud with Hiromu because I thought that those two guys would just fucking murder each other. But that was his place at that time. He really was just a nice little mid-level junior. Now he eventually became, a star in the division and all that. And that's great. And I'm glad that I get mocked in the DMs by people about that because I'm happy for Despy, and I will be equally happy for Kosei Fujita if he becomes a star in the division or even more than that at some point down the line. And I know they're going to push him at some point, and I know he's got junior title in his future and all that, but the bar that people seem to be setting is that he's like a prodigy type talent, and I struggle to see that with him. I see him as a solid talent and a guy that can be on the roster for 20 years. And obviously he's very good, but he's not jumping off the page like Hiromu Takahashi did, when he was feuding with Dragon Lee in Mexico, and everybody knew that guy was going to be the goods, right? To me, that's a prodigy type talent. What Hiromu was at the same stage. I don't see Fujita at that level. And you might say, well, that's a high bar. Well, that's not the bar I have set. That's the bar that other people are telling me that this kid, that people have come at me and said, this is where he's at. So, and I'm just saying, I think that's a bit too high praise. I don't see future Jushin Thunder Liger here. I just don't. But it comes off backhanded or whatever, but yeah, I hope I'm wrong. I would love to take an L on this guy, but he's a good wrestler, and I think he does have a good future.
So that's it for New Japan Strong Fighting Spirit Unleashed. As I said, they have a pretty good card set up for their Walter Pyramid show, Long Beach, on December 15th. Strong Style Evolved 2024. You have a strong Survivor match, Matt Vandegrift and Zane J. Mina Shirakawa versus Johnny Robbie. Hechicero versus Leo Rush. I like that. That sounds good. Hechicero versus Leo Rush.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, 4-way match. TJP, Clark Connors, Kevin Knight, and Kosei Fujita. Jack Perry and Konosuke Takeshita versus Shingo and Yota Tsuji. That actually sounds like a lot of fun. You're going to love this, Joe. The Grizzled Young Veterans V1 defense of the New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team titles against the West Coast Wrecking Crew of Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaac.
They did win.
Yeah, right. They earned this shot, but also
they earned the shot. They won a match. I can't knock it from a kayfabe standpoint. Do I have any interest in that whatsoever? The answer is no. But all right, well booked, I suppose.
Gabe Kidd versus Rohei Oiwa. So we'll see. We'll be able to compare them side by side. Oiwa versus Fujita here. Gabe Kidd defending the title against Oiwa. And then Mercedes Mane versus Hazuki for the Strong Women's title.
And again, Oiwa wins a singles match, and now he's getting a title shot. That card doesn't look that bad. What building is it in?
Walter Pyramid in Long Beach.
All right. They run that building all the time. It should have a much better atmosphere if there's actually some fans in it.
Yeah, I don't know if they've announced. Let me see if WrestleTix says anything about the
maybe not anything
tickets for that show. Yeah, it's still pretty early, so I doubt. No, I don't think they have anything for Strong Style Evolved yet. So we'll stay abreast of it as we get closer. But yeah, that sounds like a pretty good show. So I'm not on New Japan Strong yet. I'll give him another chance here. Before we go to Dragon Gate, real quickly, we just wanted to talk about the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, and we did a ton of audio this year over at flagshippatreon.com, all available on the $5 tier as well. So if you want to jump in on the $5 tier, maybe the $10 tiers, not quite for you right now, that's okay. The $5 tier has all of our bonus audio, and that had all the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame audio that we did, and there was a lot. There was hours upon hours upon hours. We did multiple 3+ hour shows, a couple of 2+ hour shows, And then earlier this week, or actually just a couple days ago, you and I did the Hall of Fame ballot reveal where we revealed, who we voted for and a couple of other things. But yeah, we just wanted to kind of remind people that, because tomorrow the Observer is coming out. By the time most of you guys listen to this, we will know the 9 acts that have been, enshrined in the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. But we, I think, do the best coverage of anybody out there in terms of the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, and I think this year was no exception. There was a ton of great discussion, great audio, great guests, and I'm immensely proud of what we do every single year with the Observer Hall of Fame. I think it's great, and I think we've also, and a few people shouted this out this year, not only do they think we're doing a good job, they think we're making other people do a good job with the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, and that I love to hear. Like I know Alan Cunahan said it, a few other people said, like, you make it so that other places start covering this stuff more because you guys are doing it so well that other people are wondering, well, shit, maybe we should be doing this. And I've seen the Observer site do a lot more with the Observer Hall of Fame. I've seen other places, do other, extensive stuff about the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. And I think a large part of that, a lot of people do believe, is us hitting it so hard for all these many years. But yeah, I thought this year was another great year of audio.
Yeah, Rob Bahari with the Mexico region. That's Rob Viper. People might know him better under that handle. His show, all the shows are great. Ethan Tyler, who we had last year in the, what did he do?
He did Rest of the World last year. He did Rest of the World last year.
Right. And this year he did
non-wrestlers.
Non-wrestlers, right. And that guy's just a wealth of knowledge. You just sit under the learning tree when he does audio. Last year too with Mike Sempervive with the non-wrestlers. I mean, people got the last 2 years of non-wrestler, people have, gotten just incredible history lessons from 2 different perspectives both years. Japan with Gerard DiTrolio, no relation to Finn, his first time doing Hall of Fame audio, and that guy obviously knows Japanese wrestling and Japanese wrestling history inside and out. We had the Mike Gilbert, who we brought on, who I guess they're going live right now or soon. Right?
They're actually going to delay. They're going to be going a year. They're going to be actually going tomorrow. So we're not going to be going head to head with Mike and JD. They're going tomorrow. Yeah, some things have come up, so they're going tomorrow.
First time voter Mike Gilbert, and one of the preeminent people covering TNA these days. So I pitched bringing him on because I wanted the perspective of a first time voter, which we haven't had in a while on the show. So he did the modern US Canada with, a billion fucking candidates. So that show was over 3 hours. Then you did your Gordy List show with the other half, JD.
Yeah, which I'm going to bring back next year. We're going to do that again. I wasn't sure how it was going to work in audio form, and I think it works great. So that's coming back next year for sure. We're going to do that more.
Yeah, that got great reviews too, the Gordy List show. And if people aren't familiar with the Gordy List, that's a way that people used to assess these Hall of Fame candidates. And go read up on the Gordy List. Oh, just go listen to the show.
Yep.
And you'll get filled in on what the Gordy List is all about. It's a good way to assess candidates. And then the final show we did was our ballot reveal, which we released yesterday, Wednesday, since we're doing this live on Thursday. And it's not just us running down the people we voted for, some cold, boring audio. We give, analysis of from a slightly different perspective. All the candidates have been discussed on the other shows. So what we do on the ballot reveal is kind of discuss our methodology and why we voted for and why we didn't vote for certain candidates, and how our ballots took their shape and all of those sorts of things. So I thought that ended up being a really great show, and I'm not just trying to sell it. I did think that we did a really great show with that as well. So 6 total Hall of Fame audios this year. We don't always get to every category each year. This year we didn't get to Rest of the World or the historical.
Yeah, we didn't do historical, which some people brought up, but there was only like one. I think Afa and Sika were the only new candidates on historical, so it was one that I was just like, yeah. I mean, if we don't get historical, that's fine. Like we've had a lot of the conversations already about those guys. So if you are interested in anybody that is in the historical region, go back and listen to our shows the past couple years where we've covered most of these guys, most of these people that are on here.
Right. So and again, when it comes to the Hall of Fame shows, they really are evergreen because they're just people bantering about wrestlers and their careers. So you can always go back to some of these categories from prior years and listen to those audios too. And then Rest of the World is always a difficult category to find people to discuss. That's just the issue with that one. There's not a lot of voters. we've had in the past John Lister. We had one year. I can't remember who else we had in that. We don't always do that one.
No, that's one that's
difficult.
Pretty much always on the chopping block. Yeah, when Ethan Tyler last year said he would do
Ethan Tyler,
we were like, oh, thank God, good, because we don't know who else to ask. And then, this year he said, hey, can I do non-wrestler? And I was like, yeah, sure, but that means I don't know who we're going to do for the rest of the world. And hopefully we get somebody new moving forward. But yeah, as we always say, it's really hard to find someone who's an expert on the UK scene and the Australia scene and the Southeast Asia scene and
Puerto
this scene
Rico
and Puerto Rico and all. There's very few people that can do all those sort of things. You need to get one of those one-of-one guys like an Ethan Tyler who just studies the ballot.
I got to tell you, there's legitimately not many people on the planet equipped to do that show with us. That's a fact.
The way that we do. And if you just want to come on and we'll say names and you go, yeah, that guy. Yeah, I don't know. He's fine. Like, no, to do the shows that we do, you need to be an expert in that field. And I don't know anybody that's an expert in all those fields.
Small handful of people on Earth who can do that show the way we do it and do that. And that's why it's hard to find people, because I like to think we have a pretty high standard for these shows. So we don't even vote in that category. Okay. I'm not equipped to be a guest in that cat. It's hard. It's hard to find people who can. Dave Meltzer, I think, might not vote.
I don't think he votes in it either. I don't think he votes in it either. Yeah.
There's years he didn't vote in that category. He doesn't even always vote in that category. So it's a tricky category to find a guest. And we don't like to double up, because then you have people like one year after another, because in any category, because then you have guests talking about the same candidates 2 years in a row. It's pointless. So we try to rotate people. So some of the people you haven't heard in a while, you'll probably get back in the mix over the next couple of years in some of these categories. But we don't like, it's not even fair to the guest to bring them right back to talk about the same category where they're going to be talking about, 8 of the 10 people are people they talked about 12 months earlier. It's not fair to the guest. It's not fair to the listener. You and I, Rich, are the only ones that have to talk about all these fucking people year after year who don't fall off the ballot. That's why we get grumpy about the size of the ballot, because I'm just tired of talking about everybody every year.
Well, I just wish we could just do an hour and a half show. I love these 3-hour shows, but God, it's exhausting where we're like, I'm looking at the list and I'm like, oh my God, we still have 20 more guys.
7 guys left.
God, it's just.
It's and again, that's just because there's just too many people on the ballot. So, and we're completists, we could easily say, all right, well, let's just not talk about Bray Wyatt, but that's not what we do. That's not what we do. And that's not why, people are listening to us. So, anyway, there's great Hall of Fame content. Each year there's great Hall of Fame content. Every time, these guests just kill it every time. I don't think we've ever had a dud of a guest. I mean, whoever we bring on, they do the work. They got a ton of knowledge, so, and this year was no exception. So all that stuff is on the $5 tier to, as you get gears, we find out in a matter of hours, I guess, who the 9 candidates were who got into the Hall of Fame. Real quick too, Rich, before we do the Dragongate, AEW has announced another date since we did our segment. That's the, perils of doing a live show. December 18th, Washington, D.C.
Okay.
In a building they have run before, the Entertainment Sports Arena, Washington, D.C. So, I don't know. Maybe they're just slow rolling some of these venues or something, but there's one date, December 18th, Washington, D.C. has been announced. Also, we are being told that there have been some more people ID'd as we have been doing the show live.
Yeah.
So I don't know where to find
one of the guys is the one I mentioned. One of the other guys, I forget what the other dudes' names are. So there was that the guy that I told you about that I was like, hey, Joe, this guy's got some good prospect. This guy might be worth looking at. He already got signed. Elsewhere, it was Jackson Drake from Firestar Pro Wrestling. I
have no idea.
I think he's. I've seen him in Deadlock. He's a decent guy. He's all right. They're sounding good guys. You know what I mean? Like Gabe's in charge of this thing, or not in charge of it, but a part of it. He has a huge voice. Yeah. They're signing good guys for the record, but that's what makes it more annoying than anything. It's like shit. They're signing good guys, but I think those are the two dudes. Was Brad Baylor and Jackson Drake, I believe, are the two new ID guys.
You notice they're hiring athletic real they're hiring legitimate wrestlers too.
Mm-hmm.
They're not hiring this bevy of geeks that we see on the indies these days. These, they're not hiring people from art class. They're hiring people from gym class. That's basically what's happening.
Right. Like you always say, the guys on the football field, not the kids under the bleachers smoking.
Not the kids smoking under the bleachers, which the indies are loaded with right now. And I could say so many names, but I don't want to. It's not. What's the point? Why should I? I don't want to shit on these people. You know what I mean? It's like, but we all know who they are, and it's at least for me personally, it's largely driven me away from the indies because I don't want to watch these kind of people wrestle. Anyway, so what do we got left? Let's
do some Dragongate.
Third hour,
yeah.
Back end of the third hour Dragongate.
Yeah,
that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, you didn't watch this, right?
I regret to inform you, I have not been caught up on the King of Gate.
That's all right. I can help lead through this. So I don't have to get into extensive details about every single match on here. Now, one of the problems was I locked in on this King of Gate. I had time this week, so I locked in. I was like, you know what? King of Gate's coming up. This is a good time to start. So I watched night one from Cork and Hall. English commentary. You got Jay and Ho Ho Luna on commentary. I'm like, hell yeah, man, King of Gate. I'm going to follow King of Gate this year. So I then reach out to our friends at Open the Voice Gate, of course, Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network, Case Lowe and Mike Spears. And I'm like, all right, man, make sure I got the standings right. Are all these standings good? And they send me the standings and they go, yeah, here you go. And then Case hits me with this just the big old fucking jab right into the mouth. And I'm just like, fuck. Uppercut, if you want to call it. It was an uppercut, basically. He goes, don't get too excited because they're not going to show anything for the rest of this tournament until November 29th.
Are you serious?
Nothing else. From November 29th, none of that's going to air, ever.
You know what? I gotta say.
It sucks.
It sucks. But I'm going to watch this show we're about to talk about now because in an odd way, it's less daunting to me to know that I only have to watch. You see what I'm saying?
You can lock in for night one and then check in once the things gets hot and heavy.
On the 29th.
Yeah.
Right. And not feel like I'm missing, because a lot of times with these tournaments, it's daunting and it saps the enthusiasm out of me when once I fall behind. There's nothing to fall behind on if they're not airing.
True. It's like the 01 Fire Festival. You jump into the finals. You're like, oh yeah, Fire Festival, let's go. You know?
And then you're like, oh, I've watched all 12 Fire Festival matches that have aired, and I feel like I accomplished something.
Yeah.
This actually, it sucks, but at the same time, I'm now gonna watch King of Gate.
It's a relief
because I don't feel like. See, if they're showing every night of a tournament, I'm like, if I watch night one, then I feel obligated to watch the rest. And there's just so much, and I don't have time.
You get caught behind, and then you're watching stuff from 2 weeks ago.
Once I fall behind, then I feel shitty about myself, right? I got to catch up. I can keep up with this. I don't have another show to watch for 2 weeks.
I think you'll like this. I think this is a good time for you to jump into Dragongate if it has been a while. So I'll just do the King of Gate matches. I think those are the ones that are worth talking about here as we're approaching the end of the show. So Flamita and Dragon Kid, obviously this is the match where Dragon Kid gets hurt. I think they were doing a Spanish Fly. I actually just skipped this match entirely because I knew what was going to happen, but I'm pretty sure they did a Spanish Fly, and I think Dragon Kid landed on he didn't rotate all the way, and he landed on the top of his head. It looks like he's going to be mostly okay, but he's probably going to be out for a while. So he is going to forfeit. They haven't said all of his matches for the remainder of the tournament, but I would assume that he probably doesn't make it back before the end of this tournament. But he was in a bad way, so I would just recommend skipping this unless you want to watch a guy land on the top of his head and then Flamita get. Because I did fast forward a little bit and I saw like Flamita has got his hand on his head and he's definitely he's concerned or whatever, and it's just not it's not something you really want. And it's not like Dragon Kid went limp immediately either. He was kind of rolling around a little bit, but he was grabbing the top of his head and stuff. So I would just skip it. You obviously need to see 6 minutes of a match that's going to end with a guy getting dropped on his head. But Ishin versus Mochizuki Jr., you are going to love this match. This is in the A block. They go to a time limit draw, 20 minutes. I don't want to say too much about it since you are going to watch it, but anybody listening to this, if you haven't watched Dragongate in a while, this is a good match to jump back into because these are two of the good young wrestlers in this company. Mochizuki Jr., obviously, Masashi Mochizuki's son, 22 years old, already wrestles like way, way, way better than his age indicates. Like, he's not his dad, and it's going to be very difficult to ever live up to what his dad is. But I think he's really fucking great for only being 22 years old. And Ishin he's like 27. He's a little older, but he's a lot of fun as well. And I was gonna say bulked up. He hasn't bulked up. He's gotten bigger, Joe. He was last time you probably watched Dragongate, he was a skinny little junior. Well, he is not a skinny little junior anymore. He's a big old boy these days. So he's packed on some pounds. And
will Scott and Bill Irwin be cutting a promo on?
No, they will not.
Not that kind of bulk.
Not that kind of bulk. No, the kind of bulk that I can get down with, where he just
right. Yeah, the kind of bulking up Rich does when those shin splints are acting up.
Yeah, exactly. Just getting kind of fat, just getting a little bit of the holidays. When the holidays come around, that's the kind of the bulk that Ishin's been doing. But no, this is a really, really good match. A good time limit draw. One of those time limit draws that doesn't feel like it. You know it is, because I'm telling you right now, and you're going to go back and watch it, but they work in a style that it's not like, oh God, here we go, we get the time limit draw. And it helps that it's only 20 minutes too. So it's not one of those like, long time limit draw matches that just drones on or whatever. But this is a really, really good work between these two. I'm positive you're going to like this. And I'm positive most people listening to this right now are going to like that match. So, and they go hard too, man. They just beat the fuck out of each other throughout a lot of this. So, it's two young guys trying to, prove themselves on the stage. So that was really great. Mochizuki, the father, Mochizuki Sr., Masashi Mochizuki, and Shun Skywalker. Mochizuki got the win over Shun Skywalker a little bit. Maybe not an upset. It's one of those. This was kind of one of those Japanese wrestling tournament things where you put Shun Skywalker behind the 8 ball, and he's going to have to kind of work his way up and try to get back there. But no, this is good. And Shun Skywalker just trying to be an asshole to Mochizuki, trying to egg him on or whatever, and Mochizuki just not really falling for it and just kind of sticking to the game plan. You know what I mean? A smart veteran pro wrestler sticking to the game plan and not getting, bogged down by the mind games of Shun Skywalker. But this was good work. And then the main event. I really, really like the main event as well. Dragon Dia defeating Yamato. I was in the C block. Kind of another upset because Yamato is the current champ, and Dragon Dia, nobody really maybe expected him to get it, but and I thought commentary did a good job too, Jay and Ho Ho Lun, talking about, Dragon Dia coming back from, the Super Junior Tag League and Best of the Super Juniors and stuff. Best of the Super Junior. He was not in the Super Junior Tag League, right? He was just in Best of the Super Juniors.
No, he was in Super Dragon Dia?
Yeah, was he in the Tag League?
Yeah.
Oh, he was. That's right. Okay, yeah.
Skateboard Boys or whatever.
Yes, Taguchi. Right. Okay, so I did have that right because I wrote that in my notes that he was in the Super Junior Tag League, and I was like, "Was he?" And then, right, he was with the Taguchi and the Skateboard Bros or whatever the fuck they were called. So yeah, they talked about the experience of going to New Japan and figuring out some new things and figuring out some new ways and having newfound confidence or whatever. So he comes in here and beats the top champ in Dragongate. A little bit of an upset again in night one, but really good work. Yamato's Yamato. He can still go with the best of them, and Dia's getting better. I think so. If you haven't watched him in a while, or maybe you just saw him in New Japan, and you haven't seen him in Dragongate or singles work in a while, I think you'll be impressed by how much he's improved. But he looked really good, and yeah, I thought the King of Gate matches were all really, really good. There was a couple other tags on the night. You could skip those if you want, but if you want to see some of these other guys, you can. But I think you could probably safely skip most of the other ones and just watch the King of Gate matches and get by pretty good. Obviously, with the exception of Flamina and Dragon Kid, there's really no purpose in watching that one. And there is a segment too, Joe. You're going to get past the intermission. Don't go too far past the intermission because they're going to hit the ring again, and you're going to think, oh, this isn't a match. I'm just going to skip this. You should not skip this at all, because what happens is after intermission, they have a new sponsorship in Dragongate. And let me make sure I get the name of this sponsorship correctly. Rutan, I believe is his name, or Rutan is this man's name. So it is a big, giant... I don't know what it is. Paul Wedding's in the chat room. What the hell is Rutan? You can tell me what this thing is. But anyway, he's got like a big head. He looks like a grape. It's like this big giant ball with these little he's got a big giant head and a small little torso. Okay? Small little torso, small little legs, big giant head. Okay? So they bring him down, and the Dragongate wrestlers try to get this man in the ring. And his head can't fit in the ring. This mascot's head cannot fit in the ring. So they're bending the ropes, they're shoving him in, and this takes like 6 or 7 minutes to get Rutan in the ring. And eventually they stretch the ropes enough, and enough guys push his body in that Rutan flies into the ring, and there he is. He's in the ring. And Jay then lets us know on commentary that this new sponsorship is a hardware store in Japan that's now sponsoring Dragongate. They've lost Sponge Guy, but they've acquired Hardware Guy. So then these two dudes and these Tim the Toolman Taylor, and I'm not making any of this up, by the way. Everything that I'm saying could be verified and will be verified by you when you watch this. So these two guys come out in these Tim the Toolman Taylor, like, you know, what was his Binford or whatever the hell his tools were? I forget what they were. Binford tools. They just come out and they're wearing those kind of jackets. You know what I mean? These like satin jackets from like 1994 with their brand on it. And Jay goes, oh yeah, those are the owners of the hardware store or whatever, or the hardware. I don't know if it's a chain of hardware stores or just literally one hardware store. And then they point out, and this is why I brought this up, because otherwise I wouldn't really bring this up. But the reason I bring this up is Rutan has a little sign on him that says number 9. It's got a number 9 on it. And Jay goes, Ho-Ho, do you know why it says number 9 on there? And Ho-Ho Lun obviously has no fucking idea why. He goes, no, I have no idea why. And Jay goes, well, in a recent mascot competition, Rutan finished 9th. And he's proud of it. And that got me thinking about your rant about, you know, the pizza place that hangs up, you know, Dallas Fort Worth's number 6 pizza in 2021 or whatever. It's like, don't put that down. Why do I want to go to, you know, the Dallas Fort Worth Ledger's number 6 pizza from 2021? Like, you get that off. It's 2024. And 5 other places were better than you. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just love this Rutan, you know, coming out and bragging about finishing 9th in this mascot competition. And and then so the guys get in the ring, the guys in their Binford jackets get in the ring and talk about their hardware store or whatever. And Jay goes, oh yeah, the one guy said that they didn't want Rutan to get in the ring because they didn't think he could fit in the ring, and they're not sure how he's going to get out of the ring. And they said, no, they didn't want to, because they were going to break this thing. Like this guy was going to, like, I don't know, this mascot, whatever he was made out of, was getting like ripped to shreds. It was not going to last very long, like with them shoving him and trying to get him in the ring. And then the hardware guys were like, yeah, we didn't really want Rutan to get in the ring because we didn't think he could fit. So then when they're done with their segment, now we got to get Rutan out of the ring. And that also takes about 5 or 6 minutes, and it is actually pretty hilarious. As
you're telling me to watch this?
Yes, you will find it funny. I'm positive you will find it funny, because now we need to have Ishikawa has to face Rutan at some point. We got to do this. But there's enough time. How many more matches does he have?
I don't know.
I don't think there's many left. Fuck, I don't know what we're going to do here, but we got to get Rutan in there. I think you're going to enjoy it. The Dragongate wrestlers trying to get Rutan out of the ring and into the ring is actually pretty hilarious. I think you'll find it funny. And they start realizing it, because they're smart workers. So they start like really, you know, what the guy in the back, I forget who it is, he's really like going, you know, he's really trying to push him or whatever, while the guy's grabbing the ropes, you know, trying to lift him up or whatever. They get him out of the ring. He gets out of there eventually. And then Jay goes like, we better check those ropes afterwards. They may have been stretched, you know, to their limit to get this mascot in and out of the ring. But Paul Wedding tells me he's a kangaroo. This Rutan is a kangaroo. He doesn't really look like a kangaroo, but apparently he's a kangaroo. I'm not selling you very well on this, but I think you should watch it.
Maybe he's a wallaby.
He might be a wallaby. Oh, Rutan. That's why he's called Rutan.
Oh, Rutan.
Okay. Yeah. He doesn't look like Rutan doesn't look like a kangaroo or a wallaby. But anyway, I don't think I sold you very well on it, but hopefully I think
sounds awful.
No,
I gotta be honest.
Watch it. You should watch it. I think you would enjoy it. I honestly think you would find it funny.
I don't even know who Sponge Guy is. I hear people talk about that. I have no idea what that
you don't remember
means.
Sponge Guy? Yeah, he was like the secret investor of so much fucking wrestling over the last couple years.
People would talk about Sponge Guy, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. I don't care.
You don't remember Sponge Guy?
Out.
Okay.
Do you ever have things that like people like? Okay, remember when the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial was going on?
This is the story I bring up all the time, but go ahead.
And you were like, I don't want to know a thing. And we were doing bits where I would start to tell you about it, and you'd be like, la 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 la. I don't want to know.
I got so deep into it. I got months into it, and I didn't know a thing about it. And I remember,
not a thing.
I was like, this is so refreshing. I don't know. I don't have any opinions about Johnny Depp or Amber Heard. I have no idea. And people would say like, no. I'd be like, fucking stop, please.
Nope, don't know. Don't care.
I've lasted months into this.
Yes.
I've walked into grocery stores and seen covers of Us Weekly and went, I don't know what's going on. I don't care. It's so refreshing to not have any opinion about this thing. Yeah.
I don't want to know. That's Sponge Guy. People talk about this Sponge Guy for years. I don't know who the fuck he is. I've never seen him. I don't know what people are talking about.
He's done now. He's done. He got fired or something, so you don't have to worry about it.
It's like, I have so many things like that. Like, there was this thing from a few years ago that like took over the internet, and I still have no fucking clue what it is. If it's a person, if it was an event, it was a thing. Do you remember Coney?
Oh, yeah.
I have
Yes.
Rich, now don't tell me. I have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a person, if it's an event, if it's a meme. All I know is everyone was talking about Coney, and I was blissfully oblivious of what Coney was.
That was like an early Twitter thing too. That was like the early days of Twitter, the Coney. Coney
Still
2012.
don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Have never Googled it. Don't care. Don't want to know.
It's so refreshing. It's so refreshing. There's to do it.
It's so good. There's people too, like people will be like, we'll talk about Edward Snowden. I have no fucking clue what that means. People will be like, Edward Snowden. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know who he is, what he did. I am not even vaguely aware of what. I know the name. I have no idea why he's a thing to this day. Edward Snowden. I'll give you another one. People will be like, you ever talk to somebody or you hear people talking, and they'll be like, it's all about Julian Assange. It's a big conspiracy. It's Julian Assange. Rich, do you know who? I have no clue. Who
I actually
Julian
don't know.
Assange
Yeah,
is.
I don't know much about Julian Assange. I know Snowden. I don't know much about Julian.
Yeah. They'll be like, it's that Julian Assange. It all goes back to Julian Assange. And I'm just like, buddy, I don't know who the fuck Julian Assange is, and don't even attempt to tell me who he is. You know why? I don't care.
It's like, refreshing to live like that sometimes because
it is.
We get so bogged down on the internet and especially us. Like there's certain people, like I always fight back when people say, the internet wrestling community. I'm like, that doesn't exist anymore. Everyone's on the internet. But there is a certain level of internet that's a lot of people are, that they're so locked in and they're always in these bubbles and always in these circles and always talking about stuff. And you always talk about it. Like, you go to your wife and you mention something and she's like, I don't know what the fuck that is. And you're like, oh my God, like I know everything about this thing and you know nothing. And your life is not any different. Your life is perfectly okay as you're like, you can't believe this. This happened. And she's just like, I don't know. And it's so nice to be like that. Her
life's not the same. It's better.
It's so much better.
From her. I learned from her. I bring things up sometimes. She knows nothing. She's just a blank. I envy her. She doesn't know a thing. She don't know nothing. My wife is clueless. It's so awesome, her life. All she knows about is her kids. That's it. I've learned from her. People will be like, Joe, it's the WikiLeaks. I'm like, I have no idea what that means. The WikiLeaks. I have no fucking, I don't have a first inkling of what the WikiLeaks even means. I don't know what that is. I don't know why that's relevant. And I don't give a fuck. So that was me with Sponge Guy.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
I don't, just like the Brock Lesnar fan. We talked about, I didn't know who the fuck.
You don't know Brock Lesnar guy. Yeah.
No, I didn't know who he was either. Like I heard it, but I'm like, I couldn't pick him out of a fucking lineup. Like now I know. Unfortunately, I am now.
You're now aware
of Brock Lesnar guy.
Yeah.
But I didn't, in real time, I didn't know who that was. He could have been Julian Assange for all I know. Is Brock Lesnar guy Julian Assange?
I don't know. Think
He's
so, but I've never seen them in the same room together, so I can't.
Right, it could be the same person.
It could be. I'm fairly certain no, but I cannot confirm that 100%.
Yeah, I don't fucking know. And I'm glad I don't know. The more I go through this life,
there's
less
so many more things I want to know. Yeah, I'm really starting to embrace that. More and more things.
Yeah.
If it's like too late in the life cycle of a story and I don't know anything about it, I don't catch myself up on it. I used to do that to like make sure I could. I better find everything about this. So I have a take, and I'm like, I don't need a fucking take. Nobody needs my take on this fucking thing. I'm not gonna give a take. I'm not gonna learn anything, and I don't care. And then 4 weeks down the line, when someone asks me for my take, I can just blissfully say, I don't know anything about that, and I just move on.
Yeah.
It's great.
I don't know. I still have no clue what Edward Snowden did or didn't do, and I don't know. And I have no idea if being pro or anti him gets you canceled, and I don't know which one is the right way to be. I don't know, and I don't care. I couldn't care less.
I still don't know anything about the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing. Nothing. I don't know who they are. I know who Johnny Depp is. I have no idea who Amber Heard is, and I have no idea what anybody did to anybody. It is so great. I love it. It's the best thing ever. Like, I think that thing's over now, right? Like, nobody cares about it anymore. But I don't care. Don't even tell me. I don't even care if it's over or not.
Trial ended a long time ago,
good,
didn't it?
Great.
I don't know. I don't even know who won. I don't even know.
I don't know. I don't care. It's so good.
I was keeping up with it, and I don't even know who won the trial. But
Coney, I forget about Coney. That was
Coney. I still don't know what that is. I think I might Google Coney. It's been a long time. right? Maybe I should catch up on Coney, whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah.
Can you be on the right or wrong side of it? Like, I don't even know what it is.
This is the problem.
Like,
I don't know enough either to know if you'd be canceled or uncanceled.
Right.
Like if you were
Like,
I'm pro Coney, if that would be bad, or not.
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I don't know enough. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. You know, it's like, but in today's world, I figure everything has a you're canceled side and a you're not there's right think and wrong think on
Correct.
like everything.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So it's like, which is why I don't want to know anything about anything. Right.
And then worse yet, you get in, and then someone get you get the old milkshake duck, and then you're fucked anyway. You know,
right.
Because you're like, that guy's pretty cool, and they're like, well, actually, you're like, fuck, all right.
Right.
So you got to just stay neutral on everything and not have an opinion about anything, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Oh, it's so
Except
great.
wrestling.
Except
wrestling and sports. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good, valuable lesson I learned from my wife. Just don't know anything. It's great not
It's
knowing
so
a
much
thing.
better.
Just be a blank slate, you know. It's incredible. Actually, it's so freeing to not know things like that. Mm-hmm. Current events and these people,
or just like arguments that you have online. Like that's the thing too, where I'll bring up to the nurse. I'm like, oh, yeah, everyone's arguing about this, and she's like, I don't know what the hell that even is. I'm like, man, because that's like consumed my this would be back many years ago. Like it would something would come up and it would consume your Twitter feed for like a week straight.
Right.
And then you'd be like, oh yeah, everyone's talking about that. And she's like, I've never heard of that. What are you talking about? And you're like, oh God.
Right.
And you feel
like
so
a fucking
embarrassing.
idiot.
Yeah. I've spent hours arguing with people about this thing. You don't even know what this is.
Yeah, it makes you feel like the biggest fucking fool for knowing.
You're a fucking dork, yeah.
You're like, because you come to the realization, oh, this is a real person in the real world who lives a real life, and I'm a geek who is all wrapped up in something that means absolutely nothing. You come to the realization that you're a gigantic dork who is wasting all of your time on utter nonsense. And it really brings you down to earth. It's incredibly humbling.
But recommend.
Like I used to call.
But you need to be recommended. You need to have it happen to you a
recommend
couple times, and I recommend it to you for sure.
And then you learn, I'd be walking around the house muttering about online communists, and my wife would be like, communists? What is this, 1943? And I'm like, you know what? You're right. This isn't real. Like, these people aren't real. They're fake. Like that was when it really sunk into me. I'm like, I'm talking about tankies. She's like, what's a tanky? I'm like, you know what? I just had an epiphany.
I had that this week too, and then we'll sign off here. I had it this week when I was talking to the nurse about how everyone's going to Blue Sky. I'm like, oh yeah, everyone's going to Blue Sky. And she goes, from where? And I was like, oh, from Twitter. And she's like, I didn't know anybody was still using Twitter. And I was like, oh yeah. You know what I mean? Because I was like, there's people doing like people are signing on to Blue Sky and then being like, this is good for now, but I really miss Twitter. I found so many life lessons and all this sort of. It's just like, and the nurse is just like, I didn't know who's still using that. I'm like, oh God. I'm like, right. As I'm seeing these tearful, like, I'm on Blue Sky now, but I'll never forget the great memories I had on wrestling Twitter. Whatever. It's like, God. What's wrong with you? And then the nurse thinks everybody left Twitter like 8 years ago. You know what I mean? She's like, oh, I didn't know anybody used that app anymore. Okay, well, cool. As everyone's declaring, all right, I'm moving to Blue Sky. That's great.
No one fucking cares.
Yeah, just to let everybody know, I'm on Blue Sky now. All right, cool.
All right, yeah. And, it sounds great. I'm sure none of the people you don't like will eventually follow.
Go there, yeah.
I'm
it will
sure
only be the cool
utopia.
people. Yeah, it will only be the people that you enjoyed having conversations with, and not the people you don't enjoy having conversations with.
Right. None of them are going to find out about this. You're safe now. Like that's not going to go to shit either. Sure. I love this whole revisionist history too. Like Twitter wasn't a pile of dog shit before Elon. Like Elon has made it objectively worse.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong. But let's not pretend that Twitter was some utopia before he got his hands on it. Twitter's been shit for a decade. I mean, what are we doing here? So I'm sure none of the people we don't like though. They're not going to.
They won't move over.
Don't tell them. Shh. Don't tell them about it. They want. Right. All the same problems aren't going to happen again.
Just the people that think like me are going to be on this new app, not all the other people. Thank God.
Right. None of the dissenting voices or anything. How about you just all go back to a fucking group chat? That's what we all need to do. We've been pushing for that for years. Retreat into your group chats and your fucking discords. That's the way to be. Because, you're going to have a couple nice months on this Blue Sky, right? Because it feels like this one's real. All the other migrations never felt
This one's
real.
got some juice behind it for sure.
I think with the election, this one's got some legs, right? Because of the election and not because of whatever something stupid.
When like real people are actually are signing on to this and using it and stuff, and that's the key. Is like once you get like the big companies to do it, like companies are actually doing it now, and that's big.
But all the same problems are going to eventually crop up. We know that. It's like WWE ID. It's all the same. All the same problems are going to happen there. I mean, because it's the same fucking thing. It's just Twitter with a different name. Like, what do you think's going to happen? Like the bad people, all the people you don't like, they're not going to find out about this thing. Of course they are. So anyway, it's funny to watch play out.
Yeah, it's just great. But yeah, I tell my wife, like, oh, they're all moving to Blue Sky. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then it's settled, and then you realize, oh yeah, that's right. 6% of the population uses Twitter. Right, that's right. No one pays attention to this.
Right.
But me.
Would be in my little dumb bubble, in my dumb wrestling fan bubble. But anyway, all right, that is it for us. So that has been the Flagship Podcast. Of course, flagshippatreon.com for all of our bonus audio and written content we talked about throughout this episode. Make sure you get on that $10 tier as well, because AEW Full Gear coming up at the end of the month, we'll have an instant reaction live on the $10 tier immediately following this show. That's one of our biggest things we do every single month on Flagship Patreon. Anytime there's a big time AEW pay-per-view, we're there live immediately after, and chat room's always buzz and a lot of people listening, so you definitely want to sign up and be a part of that. But I think that is it for us. Hey, speaking of, voicesofwrestling.com/Discord, if you want to join the conversation over on our Discord, you can do that there, voicesofwrestling.com/Discord. So all right, that is it for us. That is Joe. I'm Rich. Talk to you again next time. Take care. Bye.
Hello there, everybody. It's me, Garrett Kidney, the co-host of You've Got to Be Kidding Me on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
And I am Liam Jones, my full name, and I'm also a part of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network as a co-host for You've Got to Be Kidding Me.
We are a TNA history podcast that covers TNA 1 month at a time. We cover all the drama, all the matches, all the Vince Russo nonsense you could ever want in your life.
Have you heard of TNA? I bet you have, but would it be funnier if two people made jokes over it the whole time? Probably.
So if that sounds like fun to you, check it out on this very Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network, and Liam will do bits and whatnot.